Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Salutations.
This is not a regular episode. We normally just watch a horror movie and then talk about it. Maybe have some tangents, some delightful banter, maybe bond along the way. But we're actually doing our top 100 horror movies of all time. We've both got our own list. This is part 2. We already did numbers 100 through 71. This episode will be starting off at number 70 and going to at least number 41. We might go further depending on how long that's taking. But either way, this is the middle part and we'll get through it. You know, Tim will give his, I'll give mine, we'll go back and forth. The only rule to remember is that if one of us say a movie that the other person has higher on their list, they must shout hold. And then we don't talk about it until it's higher appearance. So we should be starting with Tim. However, I made a boo-boo last episode, Tim. Do you remember how I stopped us at one point and said I was worried that I'd missed one? And then I said,
I do remember that, yeah.
And I said, oh no, I haven't. I was correct, I hadn't. I was accurate when I said that. The problem is that when I was done deciding that, I said, okay, that takes us on to your next one, Tim, which was skipping one of mine. And
all right.
In wrestling terms, I worked myself into a shoot. So I'll be briefly mentioning my number 91 before we continue from where we're supposed to be starting from.
Oh, so it's way back in number 91?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I thought it was like closer towards the end. I didn't realize it was that early on. Okay.
It was that early, yes.
Okay.
So, I guess without further ado, we'll just dive into it. My number 91 that I skipped was The Descent. So, there you go.
Okay.
Tim's thinking about it?
I'm going to ask you to hold that.
Okay, I'll just mention then before we move on that was down for me all the way from 51 from last time. So, there you go. I had to find it there because I wasn't sitting at that number. All right. Okay, now we can get started proper with this episode's batch. So, Tim, if you'd please kick us off with your number 70.
Blah.
What?
My number 70 is Dracula from the original Universal Bela Lugosi ass Dracula from 1931.
Hold.
Oh, okay.
Come on with it here. Come on with it. Okay, so first of all, hold. Secondly, this is down for you. This was number 23 for you last time.
Okay.
Big drop. Yes. Oof. But yes, hold you son of a bitch. All right. My number 70, and this is down from 62 from last time, so not too big a drop, is Friday the 13th Part 2.
You may continue.
Oh. Friday the 13th Part 2 is one of my favourites of the franchise. I think it's probably the most effective out of the whole bunch as a horror movie. Jason's actually quite creepy running around with that sack on his head. I mean, hell, I just said he was running. He doesn't run in the later movies. He walks, he stalks. He balks at any attempt at exercise. That's just who Jason is. But in Part 2, they hadn't quite figured out who Jason was going to be yet, and I think it's a tighter film than the original. I think it's got one of the better final girls of the franchise, and it's got a couple of the standout kills. Everyone remembers the guy in the wheelchair and his demise going down the stairs. Hilarious. So it's not lacking in the comedy stakes either for one of these movies. Plus, I could be wrong here, but I think it's the only Friday the 13th that, obviously, lots of them have some nudity. Lots of them have some boobage. This may be the only one with the bush.
Interesting.
Full bush. So, worth keeping in mind. But no, I think especially if you compare like the final act, which is, Friday the 13th Part 1, spoilers here for Friday the 13th if you don't know, but it's an old lady chasing around the final girl, and their fighting is kind of comical when you actually stop and watch it. The ending of Friday the 13th Part 2 is Amy Steele like ducking and diving as this crazy man with a sack over his head is running around in the background is actually quite effective and creepy. I think Friday the 13th Part 2 is across the board a better movie than the original. The only thing that I think is really kind of just a whatever about it is that the first 5 minutes feels the need to, one, recap the previous movie, and two, quickly like have a kill of the surviving character just to get her out the way, as if any of the future movies was going to care that much about continuity. But again, they hadn't quite figured that out yet, that they didn't have to care. So we get an awkward scene at the start where they kill someone off. But other than that, it's a delightful time.
Yeah, I'm actually not a super big fan of the first Friday the 13th movie, so I agree that this one is a lot better by a big stretch. And I also agree that it is probably the most effective as a like scary horror movie. I do think it's quite good, but yeah, it just didn't quite make my list. And I do think even though Jason is probably the scariest out of the series in this one, it's still not the Jason that I quite love. Like I do like the kind of slow lumbering zombie Jason, so I feel like I don't know that it knocks it down a peg for me, so it didn't quite make the list. But I do agree it is a very good film, especially with the series. It's a big standout.
Yeah. Might not be the last Friday the 13th movie that is discussed on this show.
We shall see.
It wasn't the first either. I'm pretty sure Jason Takes Manhattan already came up, but I guess that'll take us on to your number 69, Timmy.
Oh, I'm next.
Well, I just went, so yes, that's typically how this works.
Oh wait, actually, I meant to say you're next because
hold.
Okay.
Yeah, you hold that, you son of a bitch. This is down for you. This was number 30 for you last time. So big movement in some of yours here so far this episode. Very fun. I also love that I've held both of yours so far, so you've not had the chance to say anything about any of your movies yet.
Let's keep it going. I think it's a short episode.
We'll see how long I can keep that streak going. What's my number 69? My number 69 is actually down only one spot from last time, because it was 68 last time, and that is Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1978 version. Was that a hold?
No.
It was hard to tell, Timmy. It was hard to tell. Yeah, I honestly, I just recently, well, about a year ago now, but not that long ago on Ace, we did the original 50s movie, and the 50s one really holds up. Actually, it's out of the sci-fi movies of the 50s. Other than maybe Day the Earth Stood Still, it holds up probably the best, and it doesn't feel goofy at all. It feels like it's a really solid, suspenseful horror sci-fi movie.
Nice.
But the 70s one takes it and makes it grittier. It puts it in a city. It gives us Donald Sutherland and a young Jeff Goldblum, and Leonard Nimoy's there. Some sci-fi royalty, if you will. And it just makes it all a little bit nastier. The 50s one is very effective, despite the fact that it's in the 50s, and despite the fact that it's playing by all these rules. It feels risque for the time, but obviously Hollywood in the 70s was very grimy. All of a sudden, you didn't have all these safe studio movies. You had you had Dirty New York, you had Taxi Driver, you had exploitation cinema, which wasn't really as much of at least not in a big way in the 50s. So a lot of that influence is there, and it's a darker film, it's a more intimidating film, and it feels like a more depressing film. The only thing that I don't like about the 50s one, which is a very, very great movie, is the very, very end. It feels kind of tacked on, where it kind of gives it a happy ending. The 70s one doesn't even dream of having a happy ending. It just twists the knife. It twists the knife deeper and leaves you just feeling miserable, like the world is doomed. And I think that's what they wanted. So yeah, it's a very, it's a horror movie because you've got all the suspense of trying to not be taken over by the body snatchers, but it's also got this kind of very oppressive feeling to it that's very, very good, which fits with the themes of, because it's a very allegorical film. Of course, the premise is very much about lots of things. So
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit too. It's actually been a while since I've seen it, so maybe I'm due for a rewatch. And I don't think I've ever seen the original, so that's probably something I should check out as well. How do you feel about the what remake? Was that one Invasion? That was like a remake, right? Of
I was that. But there was also one in the 90s, which I've not seen yet, directed by Abel Ferrara, who did Thriller Killer and King of New York, which I actually want to see that one, because that's a very interesting director for that. The 2000s one with Nicole Kidman called Invasion was shit. Like really bad. Like it was really bad.
I don't think I remember anything about it, but other than it not really being good. But it's no wonder though that it's been remade so many times, because like you said, it is a very allegorical like movie. There's like a lot you can say about society, like
but
people are being replaced, and
it's about politics and like conforming to the what's seen as the correct normal and not giving up your individuality. You can basically take it into any era and it'll work. You'll just think of a different oppression, basically, depending on what era you're in.
Yeah, and I always like having stuff on the list that's like that it's something that like has affected pop culture or like entered the zeitgeist, and like just the term pod people is like just like shorthand for that kind of same thing of like people that are conformists or or whatnot. So it's always cool to be like, oh, like that's where that's from,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, very effective. So I've heard the 90s one's good. I do want to watch it. I'm sure we'll do it in Ace at some point after we do the 70s one. And I'm excited to see that one because it doesn't really get talked about, but I don't think anyone says anything bad about it. So I'm curious. I'm very curious.
Interesting. Yeah.
But without further ado, what is your number 68?
Dun, 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 dun. Here comes the bride of Frankenstein.
You make it out, you Timmy.
I mean, I really love. I just mentioned Dracula a little earlier. I love those old school Universal monsters. I like the first Frankenstein movie quite a bit, but I'm not sure if this made my list last time.
I can tell you it did not.
Okay, yeah, because I think maybe this is something I watched a couple of times over the last couple of years. I think mainly because it's something I've heard a lot of like artists and stuff that I like that really draw inspiration from it. Number one being Mike Mignola, of course. I love my Hellboy and everything. I know he's talked a lot about this movie, and actually went to see him when he was touring with his documentary. And we're supposed to watch this, but they couldn't get the print, so we had to watch the original Frankenstein, which was still good. But it was a kind of a shame not to see this one on the big screen. But I don't know, this one is just like it's I don't know, it's just like super weird. Like there's just a lot of like really cool touches to it, and it feels like maybe one of the few Universal sequels that I feel like really stands out on its own and might even be better than the original. But it's just really cool. A lot of like the one of like the weirdest things that like always stands out with for me is like the guy that makes like the little I forget what they're called, but like the little homunculuses or something, but like there's a little tiny like a king and a queen in a jar and stuff. It's just like such a weird thing to see in this movie. And it introduces like the Bride of Frankenstein, who like became like her own very iconic Universal monster, which if it's been a while since you've seen the movie, she only appears in like the last like couple of minutes, and she doesn't really have like much to do, but she has such a striking look, and it's such like an entrance that she becomes such like a staple of these kind of movies and stuff. And I don't know, it's at its core, it's like a really sad movie too. Like when you rewatch it, like the Frankenstein, he just wants to find some love. That's something that we can all relate to. I feel like, but
the monster wants to find some love.
Of course, yeah. But no, it's I like this one quite a bit.
I've only seen it once, so it's not on my list just because I need to revisit it before and we did the original Frankenstein like 5 years ago, and we still haven't got around to doing the second one. And then get to the weird ones. We'll get to Son of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's second cousin and Frankenstein's Aunt Marge and all these other sequels they did. Because I want to go back and do some of those Universal horror franchises that we've not done.
Yeah.
They've been kind of lingering, for whatever reason, but we'll find a reason to do them soon. Maybe that's something we could do next October. We'll just pick one and do like all 5 or 6 of whatever one we pick.
Well, we were gonna time them to do with the Dark Universe, but someone had to go and ruin that. So,
just one person? I mean,
I blame everyone that didn't just go to the theaters in droves to see The Mummy.
I don't think you can blame the people for that, Tim. I don't think you can blame them. All right, that was your 68. So my number 68, which is down a little bit from 59, is The Exorcist.
Oh, you'll probably have to hold.
I thought I might.
Yeah, you can hold that.
Yeah, okay, right. Very nice. Okay, well, in that case, Tim, what's your number 67?
I don't think you mentioned. Wait, you might have mentioned this earlier. I don't remember now. But my 67 is Ringu. Did we talk about that?
Yes. You held me on that. That was my last entry, last episode. So
okay. Oh,
so
well,
yeah. This is a unleash the discussion now. It's been unheld.
Yeah. I mean, I talk about like another movie that has gone on to become like very iconic. Just like the image of the ring and the cursed videotape. But I mean, it pretty much set like a whole wave of like, and I mean, obviously we're talking about the Japanese version, but like that movie, and the American remake just created like this whole influx of, Japanese horror phenomena, in the early 2000s.
Yeah, all of a sudden watching Japanese horror was like this thing people did. Like it wasn't really a thing before then. The Ring kind of, obviously people watched Dark Water, they watched The Grudge, they watched Audition even, but Audition was first. But I don't think anyone would have been seeking that out in the same way if it hadn't been for The Ring opening those floodgates and everyone going, hey, maybe we should be paying attention to what Japan's doing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very effective movie. It's very creepy. I like the, a lot of the sequels and stuff kind of get off the rails, and I feel like hasn't really been able to capture the magic of this first one. But the first one is just a very nice, creepy, self-contained horror movie that there's nice like mystery to it, and I mean the ending is still,
it's iconic. It's just one of those scenes that there's almost nothing you can say about it other than just I think when we have done it in the past, and it's actually one that we need to redo because it was so early, and like I don't know if you've went back and checked, Tim, our review of that's like 24 minutes long. It's like nothing.
We could probably think of a few more things to say.
We probably could. I'm not suggesting we redo any of the sequels or anything like that, though. The once was enough with all those.
Those are a little tough.
But the first one, I think the tone and the atmosphere is the thing that you forget. Like, you remember the big moment. You remember the premise. You remember watch the tape. You get the phone call. You'll die in 7 days. And you remember the ending. But the tone and the investigative kind of plot that's sort of taking it through, and this sort of ticking time bomb to like try and save lives is very good. And I dig it a lot. So yeah, Ringu, very good. Which, by the way, was a new entry for you. You didn't have this last time.
Oh, nice.
So shame on Tim in 2017. All right, that was your 67. My number 67, which is up a reasonable chunk from 81, actually, and it is a little film by the name of Pieces.
Oh, okay. You make continue.
Yeah, Pieces was just like, it's kind of like an Italian slasher movie that's made with Americans that just has everything turned up to 11. You've got a killer who's running around with a chainsaw, but and to be honest, like, this might sound like blasphemy, but this movie probably deserves the name Chainsaw Massacre way more than actual Texas Chainsaw Massacre does, because
that's very fair.
Because this killer is chopping people up with that chainsaw. There's the famous bit of trivia for Texas Chainsaw, which is how many people did he actually kill with a chainsaw in that movie, and the answer is 1. Right? That's not a massacre.
No, not at all.
That's not a massacre. It's a murder. That's all it is. Whereas this, it has laugh out loud moments. It's got characters with weird logic. It's got weird scenes. There's like a random kung fu guy that's been dubbed by a white man doing a very bad racist impression of a Chinese man, and it's just, but it's out of nowhere and it's really weird. The ending is there's a zipper and it's that is wild. It just like there's a lot of movies that feel that they're kind of in the same ballpark as this movie, and I enjoy them all to various degrees. But this one very much feels like the pinnacle of just batshit slasher movie, where there's not a lot of like artistic merit, but the things that it's fun for, it's doing. The dials are all up to 11. It doesn't know how to be anything but an 11, right? That's it. Just doesn't know how to do anything else.
Yeah, I was actually watching this just last week when my brother was visiting from out of town, and he had never seen it before. And we're just looking for something stupid to put on. At the end of the night, and I just kind of threw this on and be like, oh, something like we'll laugh at every now and again, and it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, this is a bad movie or whatever, but it sucks you in so much. Like I really got like pulled into it, even though I was just like, yeah, I'll just throw it on as a movie to laugh in the background, but it is like endlessly watchable.
In fact, I'm just remembering now we're talking about it that one of the main characters is as a pro tennis player who's turned into a cop who's now undercover as a tennis coach at the college. What?
The logic of it is it's insane.
Is that how undercover cops work? Is they hire people who are actually good at the things they're going to go undercover as, but now here's a badge, you're now a cop, now give us the badge back because it's a secret, you can't tell anyone.
I mean, admittedly, this was back in the day and they didn't have the internet and stuff, so maybe not everyone could look up what someone looks like at the drop of a hat, but still, like, you think a famous tennis player, like, at least a couple of people are every now and again are gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, like, don't I know you?
Well, that's the genius of it, though, is that she's there to teach tennis, so her backstory as a pro tennis player would actually kind of make. I mean, maybe it's suspicious.
Yeah, like
maybe it's suspicious that she's working at some shitty college and not somewhere more prestigious. But like that part tracks. So there you go. That's PC's my number 68 or 67. Sorry, it comes highly recommended. What's your number 66, Timmy?
My number 66 is Day of the Dead, of course, the original 1985 George Romero version,
which is down. Last time it was 49 for you.
Oof. Yeah, I don't know. I love George Romero. I love his zombie movies. I do feel like sometimes the Day of the Dead gets a little overshadowed by Night and Dawn, which are pretty popular.
You mean the two masterpieces that came before it?
I mean, I do know people that do say this one's their favorite, so it's not like it's unbeloved or whatever, but it's standing on the shoulders of giants. I think that's a phrase. But I mean, despite it not, I feel like not being as good as the other two, which I guess is kind of a spoiler if you think the other ones are going to be on the list or not. But I do think this one is still, very good. I think it has a lot of really memorable scenes. I think the gore and the special effects are great. Was it Bub the zombie? I think he looks great, and I always forget if it's at the beginning or at the end, but I think it's like right in the beginning. There's like that like dream sequence, which dream sequences are annoying or whatever, but they have all the hands like coming through the wall that just that looks like so cool. And like the score is really good. I do feel like this one is a bit slower in some parts, which is why I'm not maybe as crazy about it as the other two, but I think it's still a really solid, good zombie movie.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think I kind of underestimate it sometimes because I never remember it being anywhere near as good as the first two, and it's not anywhere near as good as the first two, but I tend to be like, oh, you know what, this is actually still a pretty decent watch. It's just the story's just not quite there, and it feels like because it was meant to be bigger than Dawn, but then the budget got slashed, so it's actually smaller than Dawn, so it feels like a weird trajectory for the franchise where it's like, because it was almost like this is meant to be City of the Dead, right? You know, not titled that, but that was kind of the idea. But then it's like, oh no, we can't afford to do all that, so we'll have a couple minutes of that at the start, and then they're just going to be in a bunker for the rest of
Makes
it.
sense.
So,
Yeah.
you know, there's some fun moments though, for sure. The military guy who's kind of like in charge is kind of easy to hate, and
Absolutely.
I think you enjoy that if you get into that. So that's good. My number 66, which is down a bit from 46, is Gremlins.
Oh, I'm gonna ask you to hold that.
I'm not surprised. Okay, well in that case, Tim, why don't you hit me with your number 65?
So you had mentioned Pearl earlier in your list, I believe.
Yes.
Which I didn't ask you to hold it, so I'm not going to say Pearl, but I am going to say X, which
Hold!
Oh, okay.
Right, so that was your 65.
5.
65. Okay. Yeah. The problem is when I say hold, I don't have time to type in the new ones that you've not, because obviously that's a new entry. It didn't exist last time. So
Sadly, no.
there we go. So my number 65, and this is an unhold because this
Oh, okay.
is Dracula from 1931.
Very nice.
This is down a bit for me from number 36 last time. I mean, it's probably good that we've got a lot of things that are down because it means that there's new stuff that we either saw or things that we like more than last time. But
For sure.
yeah, so this is the other big Universal monster movie. It's one of the more iconic ones. Bela Lugosi's performance, it's kind of defined what a lot of people think of as Dracula, and it's still very entertaining to watch him play that role all these years later. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big reasons why I have it on the list and everything is like I enjoy the movie itself, but I think so much of it is in that performance and Lugosi just making it his own so much, and again, like making it iconic and presenting this version of Dracula that I feel like we still see a lot of in adaptations and stuff today. Like there's still that kind of suave, hypnotizing air to Dracula now that really comes from that.
Yeah, all the way to Nicolas Cage and Renfield. Even that's got some Bela Lugosi in the inspiration.
But I mean, it's I like the way it looks a lot, and it's well, what did I? Oh, yeah, I was just like kind of reading this random adaptation, a comic book adaptation of Dracula the other day that I wasn't really expecting much from, and I just really got sucked in. And like Dracula to me is just like a perfect horror story, and I don't know, I just there's so many different versions and adaptations out there, and I don't know that there's a lot of bad ones, but I don't know, it's such a good story that I feel like you really have to try hard to like mess it up. But it's I do think they it's not a perfect adaptation of the book, obviously, but I do think they did a really good job of adapting it this kind of early go around.
It's the sort of thing where the look of a movie from 1931 kind of lends itself to the creepiness of Dracula.
Yeah,
in the same way that Nosferatu
yeah.
kind of works with it, even Frankenstein kind of works with it. Like,
yeah,
they're products of their time, but they kind of feel like they're perfect for that time as well, which is maybe why they were successful in the first place. But yeah. Dracula, my number 65. So Tim, what is your number 64?
My number 64 is a little movie called Gremlins.
Oh, so close. So close. Very good.
I was waiting to see if we're gonna get like something that's like the same number.
Tim, you did not have this last time.
Yeah, I think it I think it might have escaped me as thinking of it more as a kid's movie or something, or less of a horror movie, but I feel like maybe the last couple of years I've rewatched it after having watched it a while, and it does you do maybe think of it because of Gizmo and stuff being so cute, but it is actually a dark horror movie.
Yeah,
like,
the third act when the gremlins are like running rampage. I mean, it's darkly funny in places as well, but
yeah,
there's a lot of horror stuff. It is absolutely a horror movie. 2 is a bit harder to define because 2 definitely goes more comedy.
Yeah, I would say like that's like a straight up comedy. I think Joe Dante might have even said like yeah, he didn't really want to do a sequel, but the only thing that enticed him was like being able to just go full like crazy Looney Tunes with it, which yeah, you can see it. It's almost more of like a a satire of like the idea of sequels, which actually I think makes it really funny and entertaining. But yeah, very different than the first one.
Well, you should have called it Gremlins then.
Okay, so
like add an S, like aliens,
like aliens.
Yeah, call it Gremlins.
Gremlins is okay.
Anyway, yeah, first one's really good. It's a great Christmas movie. I love the small town vibe. If you're paying attention, you can tell that the town square is actually the same one from Back to the Future, just covered in snow.
Oh, okay.
It's the exact same Universal lot. But probably no one noticed at the time because it came out a year before Back to the Future. But if you go back and watch it now, it's like, yeah, this is that town square. I think they might avoid showing the clock tower though, so you don't see the big thing, but you can recognize everything else. It's very much that. But it's good though. It's got a good cast. You got Phoebe Cates, you got Judge Reinhold in there, Dick Miller, of course. It's Joe Dante movie. You can't have a Joe Dante movie without
of course
Dick Miller. Yeah, you got a dad and his crazy inventions and all the other stuff. You got a hero to root for in Gizmo, and you've got a bunch of bastard gremlins, which are all animatronics. They're all puppets and practical effects, and they're delightful.
It really does like look so good, and like it still holds up as being like just the animatronics very well done.
Yeah, it's not aged at all, to be honest. I mean, other than the fact that it's got 80s like haircuts and shit, I don't think it's aged at all. Yeah, I concur. All right, that was your 64. My number 64 is down a little. It's up a little actually from 71, and that is The Witch.
Oh, hold.
I had a feeling, Tim. I had a feeling. All right, well, in that case, what was your number 63?
My number 63 is a little movie called From Dusk Till Dawn.
Ooh. I think I had that already. Yeah.
That was. I feel like that was a hold, right?
Yeah, you held on that before. Yeah. So,
I just think this is such a fun movie, and I think we talked a lot in the review. But if you've never seen it before, it takes such a twist. Like it really takes its time, like getting to the horror, which might sound like a negative, but it's actually like starts off as a pretty interesting, just like straightforward crime movie.
It's a Tarantino movie for about an hour, and then it pivots hard into goofy vampire movie, and it works.
And yeah, it's very surprising at how much it works. But yeah, and I think we talked about it a lot before, but man, I am very curious like what it would have been like to just go completely cold into the movie and not knowing the vampire angle at all.
And then you get to the Sex Pistol
sex machine
thing.
Yeah, there's so much good cool, like you said, like goofy is a good word for it, because like it like it doesn't take itself very seriously, and it's funny because like the crime stuff feels a lot more serious, but then when it goes into this vampire stuff, it does get almost like like fun and silly, but kind of like in an Evil Dead way, where it's gory and over the top and there's monsters, but then it's also very funny, like you're saying, there's a guy who has a gun for a cock, basically. And
to be fair, I think he has a regular cock underneath there, but yes.
Maybe we can't say 100% for sure.
I mean, if you want to pull down Tom Savini's skirt and look and check, that's on you.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think this movie is just so much fun. I really dig it.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. Tarantino's very good in it. Not only did he co-write it, I don't think he technically directed it, but I've got a funny feeling he probably did like offer some suggestions.
That makes sense. Yeah.
while he's there on set with Robert Rodriguez. But no, it's a fun movie. There's a lot of like Harvey Keitel's in there. You get a lot of faces in there. George Clooney, obviously. And
George Clooney, Selma Hayek, Julia Dreyfus.
No.
Or Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis. Yeah, sorry. I don't remember Elaine being in it.
She would have been good in it, though. You gotta admit.
Oh, yeah, she did. Just shoved the vampires away with all the force in her arms. They wouldn't have stood a chance.
Out.
phone up her buddy George. He'll come down and start, I don't know, snapping his like really full wallet at them or something. Okay, we're just making obscure Seinfeld references now. Go on.
Yeah. Actually, you do make a good point, though. I wonder if George has ever been in a horror movie.
He has, The Burning.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
He's got hair. That's why I remember it, because he's got a full head of hair, and it's like, whoa. He still looks really old, though. He's maybe a teenager, and he still looks like he's 40, to be honest.
Yeah.
That was just a man who looked like a man from the time he turned 13. Soon as puberty hit midpoint, that's just that you're a middle-aged man now. Just accept it. Move on, Costanza. Yeah. Anyway, so what was that? That was your number
63.
63. Okay, my number 63, down a little bit from 49, is The House of the Devil.
Oh, have you hold that, sir?
I had a feeling you might say that. I'm having an easy. I've got a run now where I'm not having to say anything. Okay, what's your number 62?
Yeah, I must be getting a little peckish because I am in the mood for some popcorn.
Oh, very good, very good. You may proceed, and this is a new entry for you.
Yeah, I feel like this was one I had seen before, but it's really been the last couple of years that it's kind of become a favorite of mine. It's I always want to say 80s, but I think it's early 90s.
It's like 91. Yeah, it's
yeah.
like 91, I think.
But this is just another one where I just it still has like a very 80s vibe, which I think we've said a lot before that kind of cheesy 80 movies are bread and butter, and I think this fits that mode a lot. It has a very likable protagonist. I forget the actress's name, but she had like a nice little run of like horror movies in the I want to say like 80s and 90s. But she was I like that actress quite a bit, and I also love a movie that takes place in a movie theater. I think it's just like a really fun setting.
Yeah, I didn't have anything like that on my list.
No, of course not.
Shout out to Last Matinee, which made my list. I mean, for the record, I do like popcorn. I just didn't quite like. There was a lot of fun movies like that where I just had to pick a few of them to make the list, and that was one that just didn't quite make the cut. But I enjoyed it a lot when we watched it for the show, and I'm definitely going to revisit it at some point.
Yeah, it's become like a fun little like annual rewatch for me. I didn't watch it this year to be honest, but I feel like there's a couple of years where I watch it like around Halloween time or something, just because again it's just a fun movie that makes me happy. But it might be, it's not like super obscure, but it is one that not everyone's seen, so I would definitely recommend if people haven't seen it to check it out, and of course check our review out if you haven't seen that.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's had at least a Blu-ray in both the US and the UK now, so that at least must have raised its cred a little bit, I imagine. Okay. My number 62 is X, which is an unhold. So a more recent entry here, a new entry of course for both of us, because it didn't exist last time. This is Ty West's film in the 70s. It's very much a homage to Texas Chainsaw and its setup, but of course it's a group of characters who are making a porn film, and it challenges gender roles, it challenges regret, it challenges jealousy, and has some pretty interesting directions. And of course it's spawned a very weird franchise out of nowhere.
A very unexpected but very welcome franchise.
It was very much, we've already shot another movie. Like X was out for a week and it was like, hey, we've got another one in the can ready to go. I'm like, okay, all right, well, I guess we'll have that later this year. So hence Peril. But no, it's a fun movie. It's got a great cast. Obviously, Mia Goth's there, but you've also got modern Scream Queen Jenny. Oh, forget her name. Ortega. Thank you. You've also got Brittany Snow. What is her name? She's quite good.
So yeah.
So you've got a pretty sensible cast. And it's probably one of the jokes that I made when we watched this, or maybe somewhere after, is that I don't think when they made X, they realized that Jenny Ortega was going to be like, actually, no, I said this about Scream 5. That's what it was. Like, she was like a minor well, not a minor, but she wasn't like the main character in Scream 5. And then X and Wednesday and all these things came out, and all of a sudden, oh, she has to be on the poster for Scream 6. Make her big. She's as big as the other one on the poster because she's the actual star now. You know, and I think part of that is because of X. To the point where it was actually really tough to predict which character at a certain point was going to be the final girl.
Oh, yeah.
So, credit where credit's due. Plus, it legitimately made me laugh a couple times, and it looks very good. It was going for an authentic 70s look, and to be fair, this is the guy that made House of the Devil, which also had a very authentic, of its era look to it, and its shooting style, so...
Yeah, no, I was so happy with this, and I mean, obviously, I said hold, so you know House of the Devil is going to be on my list eventually, but I love that movie so much, and, you know, Ty West has always been a filmmaker that I was really rooting for and excited to see, you know, what he's going to come out with next, but, you know, honestly, he's had a couple of duds, you know, after House of the Devil, like, you know, I feel like he's done stuff that, you know, it's not bad, like, you know, but there's a lot of kind of like just middle of the ground stuff, and then I feel like, you know, or I mean, you sound like maybe it's stuff that you hate, but
no, I mean, I didn't like. I think the only one I saw after, like pre X and after House of the Devil, the only one I think I've seen is Innkeepers, and it was okay. Yeah. Like, it was fine.
It's okay. Yeah, it's. Yeah. I agree. Some people seem to really like it. I think it's just fine. I agree with that. But then, to me, X was such like a big swing, and I mean, well, maybe not a big swing because it's not like it was super expensive or whatever, but, you know, it was just like such a like, hey, I'm back, baby. And
it was confident. It was very confident.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to describe his filmmaking, because there's like some like just really like breathtaking shots in this. I feel like one that's always, you know, comes to my mind is like when, you know, Mia Goth is swimming in the lake and you see like, you know, the like alligator or crocodile or whatever. Or it must be an alligator, right? That's
Tim. Only one of those is native to the US, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's a gator.
Yeah. But, you know, you see it swimming behind her, and just, I don't know, it's such a like just like such a good looking shot, and I feel like the movie on a whole is just really beautiful, and again, like you said, the way he is able to really make it feel like the 70s, because there's so many movies that, like, you know, and God, I feel like we probably review them like every other week, but, like, you know, there's movies that are supposed to take place in the 80s or whatever, and they don't look like they take place in the 80s or whatever, but, like,
I mean, most recently, check out Totally Killer for an example of this.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm so impressed that he actually able to, you know, he makes movies that feel like they're in that time period, and yeah, the performances are great. You know, I like spending time with those characters even before the horror starts, like, which, you know, it does take a while because it's a slow burn, you know, other than a cold opening, but, like, you know, with seeing some carnage or whatever, but yeah, like, there's a good while where, like, nothing really happens, but I don't care because, like, the characters are so, I find to be very likable and engrossing, and yeah, but then once the horror starts, the horror is very well done, and it's also a movie about making movies, which I always like. I mean, granted, it's about, you know, making a porno, but
your favorite kind.
Yeah. Maybe we should review some more of those, but I
don't even know what you call that. I mean, usually when you do the porn version of a show, you call it After Dark, but we're already called After Midnight. It would just be it's Screams After Midnight.
Screams ... of pleasure. But no, like I like anything that is about, you know, again, similar to, you know, I like movies that take place in movie theaters. I also like movies that are about people making movies, or in general just people kind of, you know, that are passionate about something and are making some kind of art I enjoy, and yeah, I thought that was a good example of that. Yeah,
it's very good. That's why I had it too. This is my entry. You had it earlier. This is very, very good. And yes, I'm you know, like, just before someone says something, yes, I know Lake Placid was a crocodile, but that was very, very fictional, okay? It was very fictional. They had to bend over backwards to explain why a giant crocodile was in a lake in the middle of the US.
Can we just admit that they're the same animal? Like, I don't like, people, oh, well, one snout is a little bigger. Like, oh, okay. Sorry. Like, come on.
All right. That was my 62. What was your 61? Why so? That shouldn't be that difficult, Tim.
I was trying to think of a clever way of saying they're here, but my number 61 is Poltergeist. Of course, I'm talking about the 2000s version. Just kidding.
Yeah, but you better not be. This is down quite a bit for you. This was 31 for you last time.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, maybe once we're done all the rankings, maybe we can. I can explain some of these dropatures.
Dropatures.
I think this is a very fun movie. Kind of classic haunted house. I think there's a lot of, very iconic stuff in here. There is like, it's strange. There's like some like very like crazy dark stuff that happens, like a guy ripping off his face and stuff. It's like a hallucination or whatever, but it's still very gnarly. But at the same time, like, I don't know, the movie does feel like a bit more family friendly than some other stuff, which a lot of people would probably say like, oh, like that's the Spielberg touch, even though I would go on the record and say I think this is a Tobe Hooper movie, despite some of the debates and stuff that that people have. But I mean, I certainly wouldn't doubt that Spielberg.
Yeah, hardly anyone got killed by a chainsaw, so it must be Tobe Hooper.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But no, I think it's a lot of fun. Again, you got like a good cast. You got what's his face as a dad, from Coach. I think Craig T. Nelson. That's right.
I don't know who he is, so this is all lost to me.
Thanks for the help.
I don't know what Coach is.
It's one of the most famous American sitcoms, but
is it? I have literally never heard of it.
I have so much to teach you. But no, I mean, it's great, and then you got the, like just the image of like, the static on the TV and, go towards the light. I don't know. There's a lot of very memorable stuff. And, I think it's something that holds up and is, still a pretty fun watch.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, you moved the graves, but you didn't bury the bodies. What's wrong with you?
All right. Well, you
didn't move the bodies.
I'll have a rest here. So this is. This is down quite a bit for me from number 23 last time. This is my number 61, and I'm just going to take a rest because I know what Tim's about to shout. Because my number 61 is Evil Dead 2.
Oh yeah, you better believe you gotta hold that.
Yep. All right. Well, in that case, Tim, what's your number 60?
My number 60 is One Cut of the Dead.
Ah, new entry. Very good.
Okay, so I guess I may continue.
You may continue. I don't know if I even considered this one, to be honest. Maybe I was.
It's tough because it's hard to explain a lot about it, without going into kind of spoilers. There's a big thing that happens like probably about halfway ish through the movie that kind of flips it on its head. And I could understand, some people might be like, oh, okay, like if you don't consider it to be too much of a horror movie, I get it. But to me, it counts enough with like the horror elements, but there's a lot more to it than that, though. And again, it's so hard to talk about it without spoiling.
The problem is that if you even describe it in a word, even if you're being quite vague, it still gives away to an extent where the movie's going to go. And the best part of watching this movie is going in cold and thinking that it is just a typical zombie movie. That's all it is. It's a typical zombie movie. And you'll enjoy it. Maybe you won't. But
I'd say if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. I think we were pretty favorable on it when we reviewed it. It's gonna seem
correction there, Tim. We have never reviewed One Cut of the Dead.
We didn't. Oh God. I guess maybe we just talk. I talk to you so often that when we talk about stuff, I just assume that like I remember talking to you about it, so it must have been in an episode.
That's one we should probably note down which ones on these lists that we've not done because they're perfect for future October thons. It's like, hey, here's something that we both like that we haven't done yet.
So obviously I won't give anything away because there's probably still people that haven't seen it. Maybe they're waiting to watch the French remake, which I think has already come out.
News to me, but go on.
I know for a while they're talking about an American remake. I don't know if that is just left the station or if it's still something they're thinking about doing. Seems very unnecessary because the Japanese original movie is still very good to watch, but I mean, if you watch it, it's gonna seem very weird at first, but even when it's weird, I think it's still something about it that is enticing that makes you want to keep watching. And then something happens that recontextualizes a lot of the movie in a very interesting and satisfying way, and it actually makes you feel very like warm and happy by the end. So a lot to like about this movie.
All right, well, that was your number 60. My number 60 is a new entry, and it is Barbarian.
Oh, all right. I think you're gonna have to hold.
Am I holding it?
Yeah, you better hold that.
I'm holding it. Okay, good to know.
See, a lot of this stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm just double check. I know I wanted to put it on the list. Let me make sure that I actually did.
All right, so Barbarian is my number 60, and it is held, which takes us on to your 59, Tim.
So I'm wondering if this is my first Friday the 13th, because I know you had a few. I think this might be my first though.
Yeah.
All right. So this is Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
That'll be a hold, Tim. You can hold that. Yeah.
All
so
right.
that was your number 60, you say? No,
59.
59, sorry. 59. Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
The sexiest of numbers.
And that's a new entry for you.
I believe it is.
Yeah. You didn't know that. Shut up. You had no idea. All right. My number 59 is a new entry as well. It's another recent movie, and it is the 2020 version of The Invisible Man.
Oh, okay. You may continue.
Oh, okay. I was looking forward to this. Leigh Whannell did a good job directing Insidious Chapters 3 and did a good job directing Upgrade. And I actually just watched that again recently for Ace because it's coming up in an episode soon. Flawed movie overall, but the direction was very inspired and was very memorable for the action sequences. So when he was doing Invisible Man, it was like, oh, this is like a bigger profile project. This feels like he's got a star in Elizabeth Moss. He's doing like a big name, and I don't think he disappointed. I think this movie has got several suspenseful sequences, which treats it straight up as a horror movie. This is an abusive ex-boyfriend that the main characters try to get away from, but he has an invisibility suit. So it's this idea that she has been haunted and stalked by someone and no one believes her. So the whole thing works as an allegory for not believing victims. So it's got the subtext there, as well as just being a really great on the surface level horror movie as well, where she has to try and get away from him and outthink him, outsmart him. How do you do that when he's invisible? And the way it plays with that, and the build up to the first times that he does something invisible, because you don't see him. This is one of the things, is you don't get to see like the transformation. Like I think in the opening scene you see like, oh, maybe he's lying there in the bed and he's kind of in silhouette or whatever, but like you don't get to know him. Like you see him really late in the movie and what he looks like, but for most of the movie, like he's just this invisible dude to you, the audience.
Well, and then wait, correct me if I'm wrong, because I did like it quite a bit, but it's been a while since I've seen it, and maybe this might be a slight spoiler, but we're kind of just talking about the beginning. But in the beginning, don't they think that he's dead, like that he like killed himself, and then it's like a shock that he's actually still alive?
I don't know if that's the beginning or if that's like maybe more in the middle of the movie.
Okay,
but there's definitely a point where that's the case.
Yeah, because I remember it being like obviously, as a moviegoer, you like, oh no, I'm pretty sure there's an invisible man here, but I remember it doing a very good job of playing with like, okay, it's very reasonable why, you know, she might look crazy or something, you know, when she's talking to other people or whatever, which, you know, is part of the movie, like you're saying, like, you know, there's a lot of subtext and it's like about, you know, gaslighting and you know, victim blaming and stuff like, but yeah, no, I yeah, I thought they did a really good job with that. I was yeah, I like this movie quite a bit as well. It didn't quite make my list. I probably have to see it maybe like one or two more times, but I remember really enjoying it when we watched it.
That's very good. I thought it was a perfect modern version of a really old idea. I think it was so it was so smart not to like remake the original movie. You know, like just do the same type of character, the same type of plot. They did a completely different take on someone being invisible. That's the only thing they kept. They kept the title, someone's invisible. Everything else was completely new and fresh, and like, let's just do something else with it. So that was a smart idea.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Like a lot of times when you hear like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this thing but update it and make it modern, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. But this is a great example of yeah, like actually updating something with, you know, a really good result.
All right, what's your number 58?
Well, it's actually very funny that you just did The Invisible Man, because my number 58 is Insidious Chapter 3, another Leigh Whannell joint. I really love this movie. It might be a little blasphemous to say, but I think, you know, I would say it is my favorite Insidious movie, even though I do like, you know, the first two quite a bit. Overall, I actually like the franchise quite a bit.
This is only a little bit down, by the way. The last time you had this at 54, so it's only down 4 slots.
Yeah, I just think it's really effective and creepy. Like overall, like again, I like the Insidious movies. I like what they do. This one for me, it probably has some of the best like jump scares and creepy moments. I just think the you know, villain, the main kind of ghost or bad guy or whatever in this one, is just very creepy. And there's a lot of moments that kind of stick in my head of like him just like being like, you know, at the end of the street and like very silently waving, or like there's a very effective sequence where the, you know, heroine is like you know, falls onto the floor, and of course like she's you know, I think she had both her legs broken or one of them broken or something. Well, she's basically in a wheelchair.
This is one of the things that's very smart about it, is that she's in a wheelchair, which makes her more vulnerable because she can't just run away, which admittedly you could argue how effective that would be against a ghost or a demon or whatever anyway. But right. I think what makes it so smart is that she's not someone who's always been in a wheelchair or someone who's been living that way for a long time and this is her normal. This is someone who has been walking normally up until very recently, and this is a sudden change to her life. It's not a permanent change, you know, she'll be back on her feet in a number of months or whatever, but this is someone who is used to being able to get up and walk away. So you're sort of mixing that vulnerability is even more heightened when it's someone who's struggling with even getting used to the idea that she can't do normal day tasks in the way she could before, and now she's having to like try and crawl away from a ghost.
Right. Yeah, and that's like my favorite scene in the movie is yeah, like she falls off the bed and like she can't get up, and you know, that it has this really great shot of her just like looking through the bottom of the bed, and you see like, you know, the 2 feet of the ghost plop down, and then it like systematically starts like closing the windows and then closing the computer and basically closing everything that, you know, would emit light. So it's just getting like slowly darker and darker, and I just thought it was really well done. And yeah, it's I think, you know, that's what really made me you know, like, you know, look at Leigh Whannell as like, oh, like he might be like a you know, legitimate like good filmmaker and stuff, because before it's just like, oh yeah, he's the guy that helps like, you know, James Wan write stuff and everything, but it's like, oh no, he's not just like someone that's just getting a job, you know, because his friend did the other ones. He actually has like the chops to, you know, do some really cool, interesting stuff.
Yeah, and this was his first time directing, so it really could have went either way. But
yeah,
here we are. So that is your number 58. My number 58 is a new entry for me actually, and this is Audition.
Oh. Gonna have to ask you to hold that.
Oh, I'm just gonna have to take another rest. All right. What's your number 57, Tim?
That would be Hereditary.
Okay. This is a new entry because it wasn't out before. I think you're good to go, Tim.
Yeah. No, I was really impressed with this one when it first came out. You know, it'd been getting like a lot of buzz, and you know, I don't think it disappointed. It's one of the movies where a lot of people would probably say that the horror is probably like, you know, the least impressive part about it, but I still like the horror angles. But really, you know, what's enticing and evocative about the movie is like the family dynamic, and you know how you know, like bad it is, and just like some of the most like shocking moments were just like, you know, some of the stuff like, you know, the mother says to the son, you know, it's just stuff like, oh, like a parent should never say that. And then which of course, yeah, the mother, you know, Toni Collette, who just did, you know, phenomenal job. Everyone in it was very you know, good at what they do. But yeah, there's a lot of like very like shocking, gasping moments, like some very dark stuff. And yeah, I do think it gets like a little bonkers at the end, which I don't think as many people enjoy, but I kind of like how like crazy it ends up getting. So yeah, it just it works for me. And again, this is another you know, impressive debut from you know, a filmmaker who I like most of his stuff. I haven't seen his latest movie yet, but I will check it out at some point.
Yeah, I'm still not sure if the new one that he did is suitable for screams, or if it's still if it's a horror movie or not. But yeah, Hereditary's very good. I think there's some really gasping moments. It's very, very well directed. I do think the third act goes a little bit downhill though, just because it gets a bit more generic sort of supernatural stuff. But I can't fault it as a pick. So very good, Timmy. My number 57, which is down just a little bit from 54 from last time, is Carnival of Souls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is a movie where if you watch it now, you'll probably guess what the twist ending is quite early on, because I feel like enough other movies have played with this type of like twist that you'll probably see it coming. But it's very effective because it's this kind of slow creep building idea of dread, of someone who feels that the world isn't quite right and that people aren't like paying attention to her as much in the same way. It's got some very good images. It's very notorious for being public domain, so it pops up in a lot of other movies and shows. When characters are watching something in TV, if it's not Night of the Living Dead, which is also public domain, then it'll be Carnival of Souls. And you know, it has that. But I just, you know, I watched it and it was very effective. And I think some people, write it off because it was on a Mystery Science Theater episode. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. It means it was probably a cheap episode to make because they didn't have to pay for the rights to it.
Yeah.
But
and sometimes it's fun to see them make fun of like good stuff too. Like, you know, it doesn't always have to be garbage.
Which I think, you know, with riff tracks and stuff, I think they have went on to do a lot of good movies. You know, you can make fun of them just the same. So no, I think it's a very effective, creepy movie that's got a really simple idea, which for the time was probably very, very novel. These days there's bigger examples that have pulled similar things, but I think it's very effective. I remember just thinking it was very eerie and very much you know, of its time, in the best way possible. So
yeah, I actually watched this for the first time somewhat recently, like maybe even this year, maybe last year. But I enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah, I like a lot of the, you know, stuff that stood out to me too was like the look and just, you know, the atmosphere being very creepy.
There's some really good, I don't want to spoil what it is, but there's some really good visuals towards the end when the twist is sort of like unwrapping and you can kind of there's a lot of good visuals there. So very good. All right, what is your number 56?
So I think this is one that we kind of were on opposite ends of. I don't think you like it very much, but my number 56 is The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Okay. Yeah, you may continue. This is a new entry, which I guess isn't. I mean, that was out before we did the list last time, so you could have had it, but you didn't.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I thought that I would have, but I think it's a very effective horror movie. I just like just the idea and the setting of like, you know, if someone hasn't seen it, basically mostly takes place in essentially it's a funeral home, or like but it's mostly taking place in just this one autopsy room. And father and son are doing an autopsy on this Jane Doe.
You said if you that, can believe it. The coroner and his son, who is also a mortician, are both doing an autopsy. Yes. You said father and son are doing an autopsy. Like, it's
a good bonding experience.
I think you have to acknowledge that it's a very specific and strange profession that it's running the family here. Like,
sure.
The two generations are doing this very peculiar job. But yes, go on.
Yeah. But no, it's really interesting. The corpse is. It's almost like it's cursed, and then like once they start digging into it, like weird stuff starts happening. And,
I mean, they literally started to get into it.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it was very effective. Is very creepy. I like, that it was mostly a what do you call it?
Bottle movie.
But yeah, I don't know if it necessarily counts, because they do go into like different rooms and stuff. It's not just like the one room, but it's
I mean, a whole building can be a bottle movie, Tim. It doesn't have to just be one room.
All right, but yeah, it's like very self-contained, and it's just another one where I don't know, something about it. It just kind of makes me feel like very comfortable whenever I watch it.
Are you getting erections watching the autopsy of Jane Doe, Tim?
Well, she is naked most of the movie. she ain't a bad looking corpse. So.
Someone put that in a t-shirt. All right, that was your number 56. My number 56 is a new entry because it wasn't around the last time we did this, and that is, funnily enough, Midsommar.
Oh, okay. All right, you may continue.
Okay. So yeah, clearly I like this a bit more than Hereditary, and I think it's because, to me, the ending of this one completely pays off. Like, to me, this one, it sets up what it is, and it's all this uncomfortable stuff, which is the main character, Florence Pugh, is with her boyfriend, and she kind of like he wants to break up with her, but he can't quite bring himself to do it, and then she has like this tragedy where her mother kills herself, I think, from memory. And it's like, oh shit, I can't break up with her now. She's mourning her dead mum. Oh, I guess she's coming in on this trip with us to Sweden, even though she wasn't meant to come. So she's just kind of like...
I'm sorry, if I remember correctly, I think there was like, her family had like a gas leak or something in the house. So I think it was like the mom and the husband and like the sister, like they were all...
Oh, they all died,
dead. Yeah, so it was like... So again, it's like another one of these movies that starts off, it's just this huge like dark tragedy.
Yeah. I think in my memory, I think I remembered like the mum or someone, like one of them sort of self-inflicted it, but maybe I'm just making that up to make it darker in my head.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, because it's been a while since I've seen it too.
But like right away, just the uncomfortable pauses as like the boyfriend's like friend group are like just sort of sitting there quietly dealing with her being there, and that sort of sets up the themes for the movie, which is them going to this sort of festival in Sweden for Midsummer, and of course the people there act kind of like a cult and start doing some weird stuff, but it's a very slow burn. It's a long movie. It's 2.5 hours. The director's cut, which I've not watched the director's cut, but that's 3 hours long. But the way it all builds up, it's full of very memorable scenes and just moments of just outright discomfort, like just really, really like it's horror, but it's horror in this like really painfully realistic, relatable way, where it's like social tension horror. It's kind of like if you take the scenes from The Office where Michael Scott does something that makes you uncomfortable to watch, and you make a horror movie out of those moments. That's what Midsommar is.
Yeah, it's I mean, similar to like what I was saying with Hereditary. Like, there's obviously very horrific stuff that happens, but like some of the stuff that is more hard to watch is that stuff that's very like awkward, and it's such like a bad position to be. Well, like, I mean, like no one is really like in a position that they should be in. Like obviously the dude is a shitty boyfriend, but also it's like like it's very obvious that like you guys are on different wavelengths. You shouldn't be together, but you're kind of in this position where it's very hard, for either one of them, to break up. And just the awkwardness and tension from that is like sometimes it's like almost like too hard to watch, but it makes it for like a very interesting, like different kind of movie. And nice.
It feels so real, and there's some elements early on where they're pretending and trying to still act like a normal couple, and those are almost the most awkward moments where it feels, you're trying real hard. You're forcing it so much.
And it's a nice example of a folk horror too, which I feel like a genre that I like, but maybe we might not do enough of on the show. But I mean, not like they make a folk horror movies as much anymore, but
yeah, well, we almost did one on Octoberthon, but then you insisted on 5 subspecies movies, so some things got bumped.
Well, sometimes you gotta bump things.
Yeah. What's your number 55?
All right. Oh geez, I don't know if I'm gonna get any flack for this, but my number 55 is Shaun of the Dead, which obviously is a very comedic movie, but for me it's in that realm of like comedy horror, so still counts for me to put it on the horror list. But
what's interesting is this is a new entry for you, but for me it didn't make my list this time, but it did last time, and I think the reason why it dropped off for me is because I had so many movies that I had to cut that I made the call to cut this one because, well, it is more of a comedy, so I think it's an easier cut.
Very fair, yeah.
Yeah, but that's all. That's the reason why.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't, discredit that, but I also do like having, a little bit of variety on the list. So, like, obviously, you don't want to have like 50 comedy movies, but I like having, like a couple of, a horror comedy entries. But, I mean, this movie is just so freaking funny. There's a lot of really just great deadpan humor, great line deliveries, great performances from everyone, and for as like fans of horror movies, there's like tons of horror references in it, and the script feels like so tight. There's like so
very
many
sharp,
callbacks and everything. Really does really don't have any
it's
bad
very
words to say about it.
It's very tightly written, and the only thing that makes it look less tight is the fact that Hot Fuzz was somehow even more tightly written.
Yeah,
which was Edgar Wright's next movie. But yeah, Shaun of the Dead's great. It's good. It's a great time.
And I think like the key to like this kind of if you want to do like a horror comedy really well, is like you can't really like this like it doesn't half-ass the horror. Like it's still a very good like effective zombie movie. It's just that the comedy is forefront, but
I think it's not really going for scares per se, but it's not cheapening out on having lots of zombie practical effects and having violence where they land on something, there's body parts ripped off or whatever. They're still doing all that stuff, so it never feels like they're cheapening it.
And it never doesn't treat the zombies as like a threat, like I feel like with some of their comedy movies, like they would if you're going like full goofy silly with it, you can like do a lot of stuff to just make the zombies feel like ineffectual or something, but they are still very much like a danger in this.
They are the one who knocks.
There you go.
All right. That was your 55. My number 55 is the original, and this is down just slightly from 52, but this is the original House on Haunted Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is a super fun one because it's very... It's not what you think it is. I think if you've seen the remake, some people actually quite like the remake. It's got like this like weird like cult following that's kind of emerged in the last few years.
The one from like 99 or whatever?
Yeah, like...
Wow.
Yeah, it's got like a weird following now for some reason, but everyone hated it when it came out. But if you watch that, you probably have this weird idea of what House on Haunted Hill is. But House on Haunted Hill is this like really fun horror, like I almost want to say comedy, because Vincent Price is this like guy who's like orchestrating all these scares around the place, and It's not like a straight horror film. It's this kind of this weird like playing tricks on people kind of movie. And it's a lot of fun. And obviously Vincent Price is kind of obviously the face of horror of that time period, and it makes a lot of sense for him to be this guy who's doing this stuff. And I think it's just it's a very I think because when you go to watch it, I think you're expecting it's a big haunted house and there's going to be spooky stuff, and it's not that at all. It's a lot more it's a lot more Vincent Price trying to convince people something's really going on when it probably isn't. Right? That's kind of what the movie actually is. Now, it's been a little while since I've watched it, so I can't get into too many more specifics, but it's a great fun time, and I'm looking forward to doing it in the show at some point. Maybe we'll do like a little Vincent Price season or something, because he's got a lot of stuff. We did follow House Usher a long time ago, and we've not really done any of his other movies, so... we should put classic Universal movies and Vincent Price era Corman movies. These are the ones we have. Not that this is Corman, I don't think. This is Warner Brothers, but a lot of them are.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I did remember enjoying it when I watched it.
The insight is uncanny. No, it's very good. It's very good. So that's my number 55. What is your number 54?
Again, I'm not sure if this is one that might get like some shit over, because I don't know, people might put this more in like a thriller or drama category. I'm not sure.
Barbie.
But not. Yes. Actually, still haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's quite good. Patiently waiting for it to come to HBO Max. But my 54 is Misery. Which
okay.
I
think enough people count this as horror. I don't think you've got anything to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's always sometimes I get too much in my head when I'm like, all right, let me check IMDb. Do they list it as horror or is it drama, thriller or something?
And just for the record, this is a new entry for you.
Yeah, which the reason why I probably didn't have it on my list before is probably for that same reason, being like, well, is it maybe lean more towards this way? But I mean, when you think about the story, though, it is very horrific. It's a writer being essentially abducted,
by Kathy Bates, no less.
Yeah. Who is, I mean, it's I don't know, like if you would call this like a two-hander, if that's how you describe it, but it's basically mostly just two people for most of the movie. But I mean, Kathy Bates and Jimmy Caan just doing masterful performances in this. They're so watchable. And it is so. The funny thing is, I feel like a lot of people think, oh, Stephen King wrote this about like, his fans and how like fan culture can be so obsessive or whatever. Which it seems like that's very much what it is. But actually, he says it wasn't about that at all. It was about his addiction, and it represented like his addiction to drugs and how like he was. Those were like his biggest fans, or whatever. He's basically being held captive by that.
Yeah. So that said, though, and we did do this in the show, you absolutely, if anything, in the time since it's been made, it's only more relevant in the days of Twitter and your hardcore fan bases who will stick up for someone no matter what, and it's very obsessive. Like,
oh my god. I mean, I don't need to see a modern remake, but I mean, can you imagine this character around the internet age? Like,
she'll walk in the room with a t-shirt saying hashtag release the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure we made a lot of Snyder fan jokes on that review now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh, we must have. If not, we're off our game.
Yeah, no, we definitely did. I'm not, yeah. Yeah, I actually, when we did this, I was like, I'd seen it before, but I was like, yeah, this is actually quite good, and it's even a little bit better than I remembered. Obviously, James Caan in the lead role gives it a lot of gravitas. Kathy Bates is very good as a psychotic fan. All good stuff. And I wonder maybe if the reason why I didn't have it is because I was thinking, oh, it's maybe slightly more of a thriller than a horror movie, so I left it off.
That's fair.
But I wouldn't argue if you feel it should be here. So yeah, by all means.
I mean, maybe it's just because like there's so many different King movies, which admittedly, there's some that are quite bad and some that are really good, but I feel like it's one that maybe people don't always think of or go to when they're thinking of King movies, but I would put it up there as being easily one of the best. Like it's very good.
Yeah, it's probably just outside the top 5, I think, of Stephen King movies, but it's it's definitely kind of in that ballpark and like close, and it's in the conversation for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was your number 54?
4.
Okay, my number 54, down from 35, is An American Werewolf in London.
Oh, you'll have to hold that, please.
I had a feeling you might say that, Timmy. Oh, I've held that a lot today, so far.
Well, I wouldn't get too comfortable because my number 53, if it's not a hold, I don't know. I may fear you've been replaced by a pod person. But my number 53 is Wreck.
Yeah, that's a hold. Yeah, hold that. Hold
Okay.
that bad boy. But yeah, so your 53 was Wreck. That was 29 for you last time.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's a big
hasn't
drop.
aged well.
All these drops. How many new movies have you got up in this top chunk?
We shall see.
We shall see, apparently. All right, so that was your number 53. My number 53, which is down just slightly from 50 from last time, is the original. Well, actually, technically it's not the original because there was one from like 1911, but Frankenstein, 1931 Frankenstein.
You may continue.
Yeah, well, you already had Bride, and you said the Bride.
Yeah,
was
but
better.
that kind of covered my Frankenstein.
Yeah. The original Frankenstein, when I watched these movies for the first time, I did like it a little bit more than Bride, which went against, because I feel like most of the internet seems to prefer Bride a little bit, but I like the first one a little bit more. And we've done the first one for the show, so I've seen it a few times now, and I think it really holds up. I love the performance of Frankenstein himself. He's got that manic scientist thing down. Like in many ways, as much as Dracula was the blueprint for not even just Dracula, but just vampires in general, Frankenstein, the character, was kind of the mad scientist blueprint. Like the mad scientists from this point on are all kind of somewhat can be traced back to that performance of Victor Frankenstein. And yeah, Boris Karloff is great in that makeup, and he is such a distinct visual look, and you've got the henchman, you've got the stealing the brain in the jar, you've just got all these great things, and even just the visual of rising the body up and the lightning and all that. It's all very good. If anything, it's out of all the... Well, no, because Invisible Man's got a lot of effects, obviously, for being invisible, but I would say between this Dracula and like the Mummy and these early Universal Monster movies, this probably has the most spectacle because of that scene, I would say. Even though it's all trickery and stuff, it has this kind of scope and grandiose quality to it. And frankly, the movie gets dark. Like, and I know it's from the book, but the scene with Frankenstein's monster and the little girl, even though it's more implied in anything you see, the fact that a movie in 1931's even implying this is pretty hefty. So, I think it's got teeth. I think the finale's quite exciting with the lynch mob and all that. So, no, Frankenstein. It's a classic.
Yeah, no, I enjoy this quite a bit as well. Again, like, Bride probably edges it out just a bit for me. I think partly because it is so weird and unusual, but I mean, this is still a very good, take. Again, it's like, it's there's a reason why these characters and from in these books are so iconic, and it's interesting that like they've got very endearing adaptations so early on, because it's another one like similar to Dracula where I don't think it quite gets it's not a perfect adaptation, but there is a lot that it does that is very well done, and again, it's so iconic, and it's like you're saying, there's still so much stuff that is passed down to pop culture from this movie.
I guess the question is there a better adaptation? Now, I think when we're done with the Hammer Draculas, we're probably going to go back and do the Hammer Frankensteins. It just makes a lot of sense to do those next for Hammer. But we've got a few Draculas left though, so I'm curious I've seen Hammer's first Frankenstein movie before, but I don't really remember it very well. So I'm curious to see how that holds up.
There was I was doing a run of Hammer Frankenstein or Hammer movies in general during one of the October-thons, probably like a couple of years ago now, and I do remember there being one or two that I really enjoyed. Whether or not they're I don't know if I can say that they're a good adaptation though. Like but I do remember enjoying them quite a bit. It's, and then I mean, if you're going past that too, and if you're talking about stuff like the Mary Shelley's one from the 90s with Robert De Niro, like that one sucked balls. And it's funny that they still haven't done like a very good definitive take on like the book, but we have gotten some like interesting like what do you call it, different interpretations though, like Frankenhooker is quite good.
Well, I was thinking Depraved is an interesting
Depraved is really good
modern
too,
take on it, but yeah, the Frankenhooker, yes, very good. All right, what's your number 52, Tim?
So I think this is a hold that we're releasing. My number 52 is The Descent.
Oh yeah, that was my 91. Yeah.
I really dig this movie. Similar to, again, with Ty West, after seeing House of the Devil and just really wanting to root for a filmmaker and waiting for them to kind of have their next like big hit. This is another one where it's like, oh boy, some of the films after this have been pretty dodgy.
Yeah, Neil Marshall, by the way, this was down. You had this at 35 last time, just before I forget. Yeah, Neil Marshall, I liked The Descent a lot when I saw it. I thought it was, if anything, like the first half of it, when it was just the claustrophobia of being stuck in the caves, is just so effective that I was down for whatever he did next. And Doomsday was okay. It was kind of a Escape from New York-esque kind of movie. And he did Centurion, which had an early, I think it was an early, was that an early Fast? No, it wasn't Fassbender. No, it was McNulty from The Wire that was in that, bizarrely. But that was just kind of okay. And then after that, I just stopped seeing his movies. That was kind of it. I think he did a Black Mirror episode, and he's done some episodes of other TV shows, but sadly, what felt like, this is this hot new horror director who's on the scene, who's going to be making some modern classics, and then it was it. That was it. It was done.
Yeah.
It was gone. Also, I'll just say, The Descent is better with the original proper ending and not the weird edited version that the US gets, which tries to pretend that it's happy.
Yeah, it's very strange. But I mean, I think the big thing that you nailed is again, like another movie where I guess kind of the big horror supernatural stuff doesn't really come on until actually pretty late in the film, but what it does so well is it invokes this feeling of claustrophobia. And I remember seeing it in like a big spacious theater and still feeling like, ooh, I like feel so cramped and stuff, like when they're going through these tight tunnels. And it's so impressive like how it can elicit such a reaction. It's very masterful filmmaking, and it's insane that he hasn't had much success after that. I mean, we all love the 2019 Hellboy, but
I forgot he did that. That movie was so shit. Like, you would not think he made The Descent based on that movie.
Yeah. It's very strange. I don't know if it's just like he just feels checked out, or if he's not getting material that he is passionate about or something, because like even the one before this, like Dog Soldiers, like I don't love it as much as this, but I do think there's stuff that's like admirable about it. And
it has its fans. There's definitely a good cult following for Dog Soldiers. I don't like it that much, but it's better than his later movies. Like, I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, I do wish there was like a better what do you call it, because I remember when we watched it, I was really surprised at like how crappy it looked. I don't know if there's just not like a good HD version or something out there, but or if they have a good transfer or whatever. But still though, like I can see like there's stuff that I can see that's like good or effective in Dog Soldiers, and then yeah, just everything else just feels like kind of like work for hire. Like really, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of passion behind it, which is very unfortunate. But The Descent, still holds up, still very good and very effective.
Yeah. My number 52 is down a bit from 37, and that is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Okay.
This is a nasty, nasty movie, and you've got I always forget his goddamn name.
Michael Rooker.
Thank you, Michael Rooker. For some reason, I always forget his name. Something about Michael Rooker just never sticks in my head. But he plays this violent man who, and this is like a grimy little. It's not found footage. There's one scene that's on like a video camera, right? But it has a very grimy, like it's almost like a documentary just following this like small group of absolute bastards. But it's almost like so dark that by the time it gets to the end, I remember laughing a bit, like when you realize that he's probably just killed someone finally, and you just sort of like start chuckling to yourself. It's a very impressive film. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's not for someone who doesn't like being inside like the mind of a serial killer or someone who is willing to just kill people. It definitely gets that sort of grindhouse, uncomfortable. We're watching just nefarious people. Like Rob Zombie wishes he could make a movie with this tone and atmosphere. He wishes. So yeah, it's a very unique film. It doesn't really follow a conventional like horror movie plot per se. It's the sort of thing where if it wasn't for the way he ends up killing people and the fact that he ends up like killing people, you would probably not even think of this necessarily as a horror movie. But there's something about it where right from the start you feel like he could just kill someone. Like it has that uncomfortable horror feeling to it right from the get-go. Like I could totally see how if you just rewrite this slightly and have a different director, it would just be like a thriller. It would just be like, oh, when's the one bad guy going to betray the other bad guy kind of thing. But it feels like a horror movie the entire time. There's not a single second that doesn't feel like a horror movie. So I think I appreciate how raw it feels as a premise.
Yeah, I think I watched this like a long time ago, probably back in high school, or maybe college-ish times. But I remember it feeling very grimy, but I really don't have much of a memory of it at all. But
all the more reason for us to finally get to it at some point.
Yeah, I was surprised though because I was looking at I think maybe Screambox or some other streaming service the other day, and they had that on it, which is not that surprising. But then they also had Henry 2, which I had no idea that they made a sequel. That was news to me.
I've got a feeling, Tim, that it's not going to be, the same director and actor and all that stuff, where it's like a proper sequel. I've got a funny feeling it's going to be one of these like, oh, some different people made a cheaper, shittier movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I assume that, the fact that I've never heard anything about it or anyone ever bring it up in conversation at any point in my entire life, that it probably is not that memorable or that
also
great,
if they didn't call it Henry, a gallery of a serial killer, then they missed the beat.
They messed up, yeah. For sure.
They missed the beat. All right, what is your number 51?
All right, so again, I am pretty confident this is going to be a hold, but let's see. My number 51 is A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
I believe that will be a hold.
All right.
That was 51. Okay. Very good. Did you have that last time? You did not. This is a new entry for you. Maybe that's why so many things got bumped down. You got all these new entries. All right, what's my number 51? Well, I've got a funny feeling you're going to be saying the same thing to me. My 51 is Ju-on, The Grudge.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a hold.
Yeah, I figured. That's down. Oh no, sorry, that's up. That's up from 58. They've mostly been down so far, but I'm starting to see a few of mine creeping up the way now instead of down. So that's fun. So Ju-on, The Grudge, higher up than it was before, but we'll talk about it later because Tim's cock blocking me. So that's us halfway through the list, by the way, everyone. So round of applause. Woohoo! Thank you, Tim. What is your number 50?
That would be In the Mouth of Madness.
You may continue. Actually, I'm sure you had this last time. Yes, you had it at 64 last time, so this is up.
Oh,
is this your first up? That's maybe your first up.
First time I've got up.
It's a two-hander.
Yeah, I absolutely adore this movie. I think it is. I mean, you know, it's tough to say. John Carpenter has so many classics, but I mean,
I thought you froze there because you had such a pause between. It's just such a movie.
I mean, it's tough because like obviously, like I can't say, you know, in good conscience, like that it is like, oh, actually, this is like John Carpenter's best movie. Like he has so many hits that, like, yeah, that would be saying a lot. But I do think this is one that maybe is a little more underappreciated or not talked about as much in his filmography, but I think it's absolutely great. Now, granted, I'm a big Stephen King fan, and this does feel like, oh, what if like Stephen King was in a horror movie, because it's about, it's about like you know, Sam Neill is like this guy who's investigating this author who, you know, is seemingly kind of gone crazy, and like, you know, people are you know, being affected by his work and like going out and killing people, and you know, it gets very meta. There's a lot of like, you know, interesting stuff about like, you know, stories coming to life, and lots of really good effects and monsters in it. I think it's such a blast, and obviously, you know, Sam Neill is always great to see.
Yeah. I've only seen this the once, and I actually wasn't that hot on it, but you know, it may be the sort of thing where if I see it again for the show at some point, I'll be more into it. I think the one thing I will say is that for people who do like this movie, for them it is the last good Carpenter movie, because after this you've got Escape from LA, or maybe Village of the Damned, which I've not seen. Maybe his Village of the Damned in '95 is alright, I don't know.
I remember it being like okay, like it's nothing to write home about, but it's not like the worst thing in the world.
Whereas to me,
like this would probably be like his last big banger, you know, like
yeah, it's the last one. I really like Prince of Darkness. It might be. That's it. Memoirs of Invisible Man I've not seen, and that's like in between these. Tim's not sounding too hot on it.
I think like a couple of years ago I was trying to fill in all my Carpenter gaps, and like I saw that one and didn't really. I might have seen it as a kid too, but watching it again as an adult, didn't care for it. But I think Carpenter doesn't like it either.
Yeah, well, luckily for you, that'll be an Ace movie, because all the Invisible Mans were done on Ace. In fact, so was Ghosts of Mars.
Except for Maniac.
so for Invisible Maniac. But speaking of John Carpenter stinkers, we did Ghosts of Mars on Ace recently, and I had never seen it before. I
haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, it's worse than you think it's going to be. It's so sad. It's like a really bad remake of Assault on Precinct 13 and The Thing.
I mean, it sounds like a winning recipe.
It sounds like a winning recipe. But then you got not 50 Cent. Who am I thinking of? Ice Cube, another rapper. Ice Cube. He's just not a leading man, Tim. You got a young Jason Statham. You got Natasha Henstridge from Species. It's a rough time. It's a rough time.
It's a shame. Yeah. I mean, admittedly, like Carpenter has had so many more successes than like so many other filmmakers, but it's still like, you know, as a horror fan, it's like, you know, you need one more hit. Like you can't go out with, you know, these or The Ward or whatever as like, you know, your last movies. I know he just had that, you know, stupid urban legend show on Peacock, but that doesn't count. Like, you know, like it still needs like one hit, you know.
No, I concur. All right, so that was your number 50. My number 50, which is up slightly from 55, is Chopping Mall.
I knew this was going to show up at some point.
Oh, I love Chopping Mall, Tim. I do. It's why, like, sometimes I feel like the movies that are this fun in the way that this is fun, like a Pieces, right, which I had already. I didn't know Pieces was going to be great. It was just a surprise when I watched it of how good it was, right? And in its own way, of course, not in like a traditional quality sense. Right. Chopping Mall is one of these examples where I heard the title and I saw the poster and went, this sounds amazing. But there's so many movies where I have that reaction to the poster and the title, where the title's kind of witty and it sounds like an amazing cheesy movie, and then you watch the movie and it's just kind of okay. It doesn't quite live up to what it was in your head. Chopping Mall exceeded expectations. It's a shopping mall. It's still the 80s, but they've got robot security guards. But the robots go berserk and start killing the group of teenagers, maybe college age people who are sneaking about in the mall at night. So you've got this, mall location, people sneaking around. You got a Dick Miller cameo, second time he's been mentioned this episode, and you got one of the girls is from Night of the Comet. If you've seen that, it's another 80s movie. It's a super interesting film. Plus you got Gerrit Graham in there in a small role. It's just a wonderful time. It has, it's not the best head explosion in cinema because Scanners exists, but it's in the top 5. Like, it's in the conversation for head explosions.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but there's a movie that I think we're gonna have to do soon that also has a very good head explosion. I don't want to ruin it, but we'll get there.
Tim, now I've not seen this movie, but would it involve a basketball?
It just might. It just might.
I might have seen the gif of this particular moment.
I think Chopping Mall is a lot of fun, but my complaint about it, what we argued on the show, I think this is more of a sci-fi movie. This is technology run amok. It's not, I don't think it fits the horror criteria.
Right, hold on, Tim. Hold on. I'm looking through all the movies you've said so far, and I've got a funny feeling there's going to be a little bit of sci-fi in one of these things. Okay, I'm looking through. Okay, hold on. I'll find something. Bride of Frankenstein's kind of sci-fi.
That's fair. Yeah.
The Blob sci-fi. What else we got here? Which I'm not debating these are horror movies, by the way. I'm saying that something can be both horror and science fiction. It's a very mixable pair of genres. Reanimator's definitely got a bit of sci-fi in it. Psycho Gorman's very sci-fi. I'm just getting through. Yep. What else have you had here? Yep. Very good. All right. I think that'll about do it. Neon Maniacs isn't sci-fi, but it looks like it's sci-fi, if that makes sense.
It's kind of, they come from like an alternate universe, which is or
that's sci-fi
dimension or something. That's sci-fi-ish.
That's sci-fi, like, yeah. All right, there you go. 50.
I kid, but the movie is fun. I do agree.
Yes, 50's Chopping Mall. It cracked the top 50 this time. I'm very pleased with that. What is your number 49, Tim?
I forget if you mentioned this already. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my number 49 is Child's Play 2.
Ooh, did I? Seems like something I may have mentioned already. Yeah, I did. Yes, it was my 76. Very good.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You may continue. Well, I've already had it. Of course, you may continue. I can't double hold you. Two-hand it. So, this was your 37 last time, by the way. So it's down about 12 or 13 places.
Yeah. So I had Bride of Chucky earlier on the list, which I think is like a really fun, Chucky movie, and it's getting more into the kind of the campy side of the franchise. But Child's Play 2 is, just a really good when Chucky still felt like it was a bit more horror tinged. I definitely say it's the best, especially horror wise, like of the movies. It just has a lot of fun kills. It's kind of what you want from a sequel. Like, it's like, all right, we already got the premise and everything out of the way. Like, if you've seen the first one, you know what it's about, and we can just start really having fun. And
I think the big thing is that you don't have to spend half the movie with the is the doll really alive? There's a lot of hiding him in the first movie, whereas the second movie's like, no, he's already Chucky. We know he's alive.
Yeah.
Have fun with it. Have fun with Chucky being a menace.
Yeah, and I think the animatronics of Chucky looks great in this. The kills are really fun, and
Plus,
I think
the finale takes place in a toy factory that's making lots of Chucky dolls. That's fantastic.
I was just gonna say, that's like the perfect set piece to like end the movie at. So it's a very strong contender for the franchise.
Second movie today with Garrett Graham in it.
Oh, okay.
Plus Jenny Agutter's the mum, I believe, if I remember correctly. So
it's all lining up. The lists are melding together.
Jenny Agutter's the female lead from American Werewolf in London, for the record. So.
Oh, right.
She was also in Avengers for a modern movie.
Like Marvel Avengers?
Yes, Marvel. Also Winter Soldier.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It's a small role, but she's just there.
Yeah, we wish her the best of luck.
Yeah. Good luck, Jenny. All right. Anyway, yeah, Child's Play 2 is very good. It's a lot of fun. Andy kind of like gaining an ally and a big sister. I think it's a big part of the heart of the movie, which makes it feel less frustrating than the first one. The kills are more fun. Chucky's having more of a blast, and it's just a better all round time. And the fact that Andy gets like PTSD when he starts to realize Chucky's back in his life when he thought he'd get rid of him is also pretty entertaining to watch. So it's just, I don't know, I feel like Child's Play is a fun movie. I think Child's Play is a solid movie and does what it's supposed to do. I think Child's Play 2 is the movie where it excels at what it can be and what we think of Chucky being, without going full comedy like, Bride onwards. Well, I won't say onwards because it kind of goes back to horror again with
it
Curse.
Does, yeah.
But yeah, very good, very good. Yeah, that's why it was also my number 70 something. So. That was your 49. My number 49, which is down a bit from 33, and that is the 1980 version of Maniac.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this kind of has shares a little bit of that Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer thing, and it's a very grimy, low budget. This came out in 1980, and it's this serial killer who lives in New York, and there's a lot of like on location stuff where they're filming in the subway stations and going down dark alleys, and it feels like, it's just that 16mm look where it just looks really grimy. But it's this deranged serial killer who's hunting down victim after victim, and then he tries to like sort of form a relationship with a woman that he actually kind of likes, and he's got a creepy hideout where he's got filled with mannequins, and I don't think anyone's going to be surprised at how the movie maybe ends when I say that. But it's just a really solid, like, depraved, like 90 minutes or so inside the head of a killer, and it's something that shockingly got a good remake as well. But I think the original, what has the original that feels unique about that particular version is the fact that it was made when it was made in the New York that it was made in at the time, and all the on location shooting gives it this very authentic, like, underbelly of the city kind of feel, and it's stalking the streets and all that. Whereas the remake's a more modern film, and so it's a little bit different. But this is very memorable to me, and I think it's one of the better examples of the killer being like the protagonist of this, certainly of this era anyway, because I guess there's not a lot of them because it typically isn't how you do it, but I think it works for this.
Do we ever do it on the show?
We haven't yet. No, it's been on the to-do list for a long time. Yeah, because
I honestly, I'm not sure if I've actually seen it.
Well,
I didn't want to say that. I wanted to make sure we didn't do it on the show first, because I didn't want to say that and then have you be like, well, actually, we did watch it. Like, oh.
And then you would look like a fool. Yes.
I do feel like it's one that I've maybe turned on. It's been on TV, or like I've put it on like streaming at some point, but then I either got distracted or didn't finish it, because I feel like something happened where like I haven't maybe seen the full thing, or if I have it's been a while. But I'm very familiar with the remake. The remake I like quite a bit.
Well, like I say, all these movies that we bring up in this list, it's actually shocking how many episodes we've done, but how many of these entries we've not actually done yet. It basically is forming a to-do list of any time where we get so many sequels though, and we get so many like new movies to do. It's just tough to fit them in. But
always coming out with new movies.
I think I think this is a good to-do list to work from for anything we've not done already, for sure. All right, that was my 49. What is your 48?
That is The Invitation.
I hold.
Okay.
You can hold. That's not this year's vampire movie, for the record, I'm assuming.
No, dear God. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I needed to put the year next to it to differentiate, but
I'm assuming
it paid me to do that.
Yeah, I'm assuming we're talking the 2015 movie, yes.
Yes.
That's very good. All right, well, my number 48 then is Terrifier.
Oh, okay.
New entry.
Nice.
It existed when we did the last list, but we didn't actually watch it for the show until 2018, 2019, something in there. And this, of course, was my introduction to Art the Clown, and I've never looked back, frankly. I assume you've seen the teaser trailer for the third one, Tim.
I have not yet. I know it's out. I've been a little busy. I need to see it. Yeah.
I mean, it's like a minute long. It's just, you know, I'm excited. But
Yeah.
Art, like, this is like Damien Leone, who makes these Terrifier movies. Like, he somehow makes these ultra low budget movies that feel very effective. They don't feel like they just look cheap. I mean, you can tell they're cheap, but they don't look like, you know, straight to streaming crap that most cheap things look like these days. It looks grainy. It looks like it's, again, shot on locations. It has that kind of vibe going for it. But Art the Clown is this, you know, it's like, take Michael Myers, but give him like a happiness for what he does. Like, he's gleeful about it. He loves killing people, and he's entertaining to watch. He's creepy when he needs to be. He's hilarious when he's like enjoying himself as he kills people. And it is just a very effective, brutal slasher movie. And I think when I first saw it, that's how I described it. It's just a very brutal slasher movie where he's just unrelenting, and it's about one person really trying to get away from him for most of the movie. And it's really, really solid. And it was a great foundation. Obviously, this wasn't the first time Art the Clown, the character, appeared in general. But this was very much, I think, like, here's the proof of concept. Like, we've already done like the shorts, and we've done like the segment in the anthology. Here's his full movie, and I think it's extremely entertaining. And I just kind of, and because it's been so long since we had a good new slasher. You know, like, when was the last time we had a new slasher? Scream? Like, it's been a long ass time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of the appeal. Is it does feel like it's harkening back to an era that's kind of gone, but like, you know, something that we grew up with, which were these, you know, big slasher franchises. And you know, we're still getting franchise movies nowadays, but yeah, like, I feel like it's not like, you know, not like this. Like, a lot of times we'll get, you know, stuff like Insidious or Conjuring, like, kind of movies where it's more based on, like, you know, like demons or ghosts or like stuff like that. But yeah, I can't think of like too many like newer slasher villains. And Art really fits in well with those. And
while there's maybe some meta subtext in the second movie specifically, it feels very earnest. It's not trying to be wink like look at the tropes or anything. It does subvert your expectations once or twice in really smart ways, but for the most part, it's like, no, he's this brutal killer, and we're going to do absurdly over the top gore, and we're going to make him just this like non-stop, nothing's going to stop him machine to get what he wants.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the earnestness of what it is, of just being content, being a great slasher movie. And even then, arguably, it's not a slasher movie. It's maybe more of a stalker movie, because it's not like there's a high body count, you know.
That's true, yeah.
Relative to other slasher villains. 2 definitely up that ante. There's more deaths in 2 for sure. But it's very effective at what it is. And I recommend Terrifier whenever I can to people who want a bit of a pick me up in their horror watching.
And I really appreciate that. It feels like there is lore behind it, but it doesn't necessarily like explain everything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it'd be very boring if, you know, there's some scene where they're researching and microfiche, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, Art the Clown was a clown that mysteriously disappeared 30 years ago or whatever. But I like that you can tell that the filmmaker like certainly has like ideas about what like art is or what he does. And I always appreciate that. I think that's very interesting.
I mean, I think that's more the second movie. Maybe if I go back and watch the first one again,
Sure,
maybe I'll notice some of it in there as well. But it's definitely really heavily kind of like, hey, the second movie makes you think about all this stuff and like what the underlying story is.
I think it's definitely more implied in the second one, but there's like stuff that happens in the first one that really doesn't make sense. Like I'm specifically thinking about like some stuff in the ending, but again, it doesn't feel like, oh, that was just weird and random. It's kind of more like, okay, I feel like the the director knows what he's doing, but I'm not quite sure what it means. But it's cool anyway.
For sure. Yeah. Well, that was my 48. What is your number 47?
So I know I was just saying that Chopping Mall is more sci-fi.
What science fiction movie have you got for us at your 47, Tim?
That would be The Fly from 1986.
Okay, very interesting. So, new entry for you, it looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, there's a lot of science fiction there. You have again, the trope of technology gone awry. But I think what makes this the horror part of it really is the body horror. Once Jeff Goldblum starts turning into the Fly, it is really, really disgusting. I almost think that this movie is a little hard to watch in parts because of like the transformation and some of the stuff that Jeff Goldblum does is just really gross and disgusting. But I mean, it makes it like, honestly, like probably like one of the best examples of like body horror in a movie. Like just the way he changes and looks, and like the special effects are so good. And then obviously like Jeff Goldblum is always very hypnotizing on screen. It's weirdly one of those ones that I feel like I don't come back to like very often, but whenever I do watch it, I'm always reminded like, oh, this is like really goddamn good.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times, but it's been a long time. It's something that I'll definitely do on Ace at some point as part of, because there's 3 classic movies, then there's the 80s one, then there's a sequel to this one as well. Obviously the Cronenberg one's the one that most people think about. The original's the Vincent Price one, which I remember enjoying as well, but it's not obviously the same league as the body horror that the 80s one has.
Yeah, that very first original one, obviously it's very different, but there was some like memorable stuff in it. The sequels I think were pretty dull and forgettable, and then the sequel to the Cronenberg one was pretty bad all around. But yeah, I mean the Cronenberg one just really stands up though, test of time. It's quite good.
Yeah. All right, my number 47, which is a new entry for me, is the original Evil Dead.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hold that, my friend.
I thought I might. Yeah, okay. All right, well, since my 47's on hold, what is your number 46?
That is Return of the Living Dead.
Which, I'm assuming you had this last time.
Probably.
Yeah, you did. Number 61 last time, so this is up for you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is another one that I just think is a total blast. It's like, it's a very different take from a lot of the zombie movies that we had before. Like, we had the Romero movies, which are masterpieces, but, they're much more serious. This is just more fun and goofy and cheesy, but yeah, I mean, it's got everything you want. It's, some 80s cheese, some like over the top memorable characters. The zombies are a bit goofier, but they work, and they look absolutely great. I mean, the Tar Man, zombie is, very iconic. And I'm pretty sure this is where the whole like, zombie brains, kind of thing is originated from. Cause, it's like not really a thing in the Romero movies. Like, but again, that's like another thing that's very like enters the pop culture zeitgeist. But yeah, this is one is just a really fun blast of a movie.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's just one that I'm not as attached to. I think maybe it's because I saw it later on or whatever. I kind of like the second one from memory more than the first one. I'm weird like that, but
Yeah, so I think that's a little bit of a controversial opinion because I think people like I heard some people like that really don't like the second one, which I do think if you watch them back to back, I can kind of get why, but the growing up, I think the second one was just on TV a lot, so maybe it was like similar for you.
Yeah, maybe.
So
yeah.
I feel like I saw that one a bunch more. So for a long time, I kind of favored the second one over the original. But I feel like if you go back and watch them back to back, I do think the first one is a little better. But I really like them both. And then
I think, I mean, it's been a long time since I watched either of them, but I think the second one's just more of a straightforward zombie movie. Whereas, so, and the first one was known for having its sense of humor, for being more of a horror comedy.
Sure.
And I think maybe losing that is why a lot of people don't like the second one. But because I saw the second one on TV or whatever a few times as a kid, like I do have this attachment to it, whereas the first one I don't. So it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
But
have we done any of them on the show? Or
nope, we've not done any of these.
wow, that'd be a fun franchise. Yeah, even the third one, which I wouldn't say necessarily is a good movie, but I do have nostalgia for it. Yeah.
If you like Melinda Clarke, you like the third Return of the Living Dead.
I think very iconic, like VHS cover too, like just all the glass sticking out of her.
And there's a 4 and 5 as well. Let's not forget.
Actually, I would like to forget that, please. Let's not. Necropolis or something like that.
If we do them, we have to do all 5.
Oof, that is that's a little bit of a Satan's bargain for that. I don't even know if that's a phrase, but I'm starting to get a little tired. So,
all right, my number 46 is an unhold. And it is down a little bit for me, 39 last time, and that is Friday the 13th, the final chapter. The fourth movie in the franchise. This is the one where Jason really becomes Jason. I know he gets the hockey mask in 3, but he's wearing like a green shirt. He looks too clean. Part 4, he's wet all the time, he's slimy, he's dirty. And he moves in a way that feels more like, Jason, right? I think 4 is where he really feels like the Jason that we all think about. The kills are fun. There's some quality ones. There's some memorable characters. You got a young Crispin Glover doing his dancing, of course. You've got the twins that they're hitting on, all that stuff. You got young Corey Feldman, of course, as a kid, being the one who might be able to take Jason on. But it's unsurprisingly, like, obviously I had The Prowler earlier on in my list, and this is the same director. Like, realizing that connection between those two didn't surprise me, because I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like, I think this does have a bit of a higher quality than some of the other Friday the 13th movies. Like, I think this is better directed than 1 and 3. 2 is maybe arguable. Like, I've got this higher than 2. But I could see an argument for saying that 2 is actually slightly better directed. But I do think this one really sticks out as being really well defined. It's got the 2 houses that are sort of across the road from each other, so you get a really good sense of geography and where, like, running to safety is and all the rest of it. And there's some fun stuff. So no, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add, but I mean, just kind of echoing everything you say, like, yeah, the characters are very fun, the kills are very fun. I think we are starting to get to the point where Jason is becoming the Jason that I know and am more familiar with, but yeah, really fun time.
All right, okay, well, what is your number 45?
My number 45 is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives.
Well, you will be able to continue. I'll just tell you what you had that last time, because I'm sure you did. Yeah, you had it 77 last time, so that's went up.
Ooh, okay.
Quite a bit, actually, that I'm looking at it.
I think, take everything you said about 4 and then just kind of double it for me. Like, I think this one is so much fun, and admittedly, it's a little probably goofier and a little bit more comedic. I mean, even the opening is very over the top with how Jason comes back to life. I mean, it's almost Frankenstein-esque, like him getting struck with like the bolt of lightning and everything. But I just think this movie is such a blast, and really, like, this is when I think of Jason. I don't know if it's controversial to like the zombie Jason more than I guess the more human one from the earlier movies, but I
don't think it matters a great deal, to be honest. But
I feel like some people get like a little touchy about it, but I mean, I love the zombie Jason. Like, I love him just being like this reanimated corpse and just walking around. But yeah, I mean, I love everything about this, the kills and stuff. It's probably the the funnest Friday the 13th for me. In a series that I actually like. I never really considered Friday the 13th to be my go-to series, but when I sit back and think about it, like, there are quite a number of entries that I do enjoy, definitely more than I don't enjoy. But
Yeah, I like 6 quite a bit. I don't love it and put it in the same pedestal that a lot of fans of the franchise do. It's just because it is a bit sillier. There's a whole there's like a random sequence in the middle with like a group of paintball people. There's just kind of goofy comedy that ends with a kill.
Yeah.
If I would say that, I think one of the complaints I had about 5 actually is still true in 6, is that a lot of the kills are just random characters that are introduced just for their kill scene, and you don't see them before that point. They're not like characters who are recurring that eventually get killed off. They're just random people, and it's fine to have a scene like that or two, but there's a lot of them. There's like a camper van that he goes after at one point. There's just a lot of those, but they are. By and large, they're mostly fun scenes. Some of them may be a little too lighthearted for me, but hey, that's why I like 4 more. 4 just feels a bit meaner, as does 2 for that matter. So
that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was your 45. My number 45, sticking with part 4's, down a little bit from 32, is Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers, which I think I'm safe from you saying hold on this one. Yeah. This is my favorite sequel to Halloween. Halloween does not need a sequel. Halloween is a perfect masterpiece. It does not need a single goddamn sequel. But if I'm watching a sequel, my fond memories of catching Halloween 4 randomly on TV at midnight on a Friday night when I was like maybe 10, 11, something in that range, and just loving it, and just loving this story of like Michael coming back to Haddonfield, but this time Loomis is able to convince the sheriff because they all remember what happened the first time, so they're actually going to try and help fight. There's an angry mob who go hunting for him. Basically what I'm saying is it's the good version of Halloween Kills. It's very much like the original take on that, but Michael's hunting his niece, played by Jamie Lloyd. Danielle Harris. Jamie Lloyd's the character. I knew I messed that up. But I think it's just a really fun time with a fun plot, likable scenarios. I love Loomis yelling, like, leave those people alone, as Michael like standing there in his bandages, like waiting to go. Like, why is he woken up from his coma after all this time? Like, all this stuff is just super fun. I just think it's a really, really likable sequel. Like, I don't know. I just, if I'm picking one Halloween sequel, and I like a few of them, but if I'm picking one to watch, not only do I think it's a really fun sequel, I think if you view 1, 2, and 4 as a trilogy, it's got a pretty nice ending to say, hey, I'm done now, because you don't want to watch 5. If you like the ending of 4, don't watch 5. It's just going to ruin it.
Yeah, I need to rewatch this because I've only seen it probably like once or twice, and I remember I never really watched it as a kid or anything, so maybe that affects my viewing. But I remember not being super hot on it when I first saw it. But I know quite a few people like it. Like, definitely, I know you're a big proponent, but I've also heard other people that have gone to bat for it. So,
people with taste, clearly, yes.
I mean, I'll definitely agree that it was better than a lot of the sequels that come after it.
Michael shoves his thumb through someone's forehead. And that's in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I need to go back and rewatch it sometime. Again, the Halloween movies, since they were never like a consistent franchise for me growing up. So like, there's some that I've seen like a million times, like the first one and the third one and stuff, and then there's a lot of the sequels that I've only seen a few times here and there. So could be due for a rewatch at some point.
Yeah. All right, that was my 45. So what is your 44?
This is a very, very new entry for me, but that would be Talk to Me, a movie that we just reviewed just last month.
You know what? I don't have this, but basically I just decided that it was too new and I couldn't think of, I couldn't put it in the list. I just didn't know where to put it.
yeah. I mean, I was struggling with that as well, and I was kind of going back and forth if I should include it or leave it off because, yeah, although if I was very good, it was very new, and sometimes you want to wait and let things sit for a while before you add it there. But well, when I was thinking about it, though, I was really impressed with it. I think it's and it is so new. I don't know if there might be people that still haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I thought it was very effective. It was a very good debut for some new filmmakers. It has a very interesting and creepy premise. Like I thought that was very well done, and then it just it just was a very solid a movie, and I can't imagine it will go down in my estimation in time. I'll probably watch it again at some point. Since we just did it recently, probably not right away, but at some point I'd like to watch it again, and I'm sure we'll see if it goes up or whatnot. But yeah, just a very impressive film, I thought.
Is that our first Australian horror movie on the list? It might be.
Probably. I don't think we did Body Melt or anything yet.
I don't think Wolf Creek came up, so
no.
So yeah, I think we're safe. All right, so that was your 44. My number 44 is down a little bit from number 30, and that is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, you'll have to hold that.
I thought I might. All right, well, in that case, what is your 43?
That would be Get Out.
I think that's on hold. I think I had that earlier.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Obviously, it was the last episode, so yeah, I had that at number 74. So yeah, there you go. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, another very impressive. Was this a debut? I don't know if I know they had that like that movie Keanu, but that was like a comedy movie. I don't know if Jordan Peele directed that or.
I don't know, but I can tell you this has been up for you because last time it was 58.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, again, just a very, great debut of filmmaker Jordan Peele, who I had us on the list as well, and I've quite enjoyed every movie he's done so far, and is someone that I look forward to everything. This was just it really felt like a breath of fresh air. Like it was doing this kind of societal horror thing that maybe we see a lot more of now, but like at the time it felt like very like, oh, like this is a very impressive, like interesting movie that has like something to say, and it's also very funny, and but also like the direction is just really, really solid. Great movie.
Yeah, it's got a very cool premise. It's very unique, and it feels very much like we're hearing a horror story from a voice that's new on the scene, that's talking from a perspective that we don't really see horror movies made from that much. When you think of like prominent black horror movies, as in black directors or black characters, it's not actually that big a list, especially before Jordan Peele. It's just there's a sort of handful of like main movies that you go to and sort of check out for that, and to have this new voice here that's a consistent voice who's like, hey, I'm going to keep making horror and sci-fi movies now every few years and keep adding to that is quite cool. And Get Out was a great debut. It was very tense, very unique premise. I hear references to The Sunken Place, like,
right, yeah,
all the time. It's kind of enter pop culture a little bit. So very, very good. That is Get Out. That was your number 43. So my number 43, which is up actually one space. It was 44 last time, and that is Reanimator.
Okay, so this is an unhold, right?
Is it? I don't know. Did you have this already?
I had it at 82.
Oh, fair enough. There you go. Well, yeah, okay, it's an unhold. This movie is bloody funny. It is full of great effects, like practical effects. There's talking heads. There's like mad science shit going on. There's body horror. There's all this stuff. Plus, you got Barbara Crampton, one of the scream queens of the 80s, in here. Plus, who can deny that Herbert West here,
Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, he's great in this. Like, he's so intense in his performance. And then I think the unsung hero is the creepy like villain of the movie, like the doctor who's like really pervy and like wants to do lots of bad things. Like he is such a good villain. He's so easy to hate.
Because you think that the Reanimator is kind of like the bad guy, but really he like the dean or whatever at the college is like the real villain.
I mean, Herbert West is a bad guy. He is absolutely a villain, but he's not the villain of the movie. He is the lesser. Because
he killed a cat.
He absolutely is. Like, he's not good, but he's the lesser of the evils here.
Yeah.
He's selfish and has no regard for the safety of the people around him. But
I don't know. Just I don't know. Does wanting to reanimate things, is that so bad?
Yeah. Did you see Pet Sematary? Which came after, by the way. Reanimator was first. I mean, probably not before the book, admittedly, but then again, this is based on H.P. Lovecraft, which is definitely before Stephen King was hacking his way through his trash pages.
But let's not forget about the Bible, which was even before that. And some people get reanimated in that. So
true, but if you believe the people who are into that, then that's a non-fiction book. Therefore, does not count.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying it's non-fiction. I think it's very fictitious, but technically,
yeah.
Technically, yeah. Reanimator's a blast. It's really entertaining time. It's a quick watch. It's got very memorable moments, and it's definitely in the horror comedy sort of camp, but very, very good. So that was my number 43. What was your number 42?
So it's another Carpenter masterpiece, and that is Prince of Darkness. I really. Oh, do you have it on there?
I've got. Yeah, I think this is going to be a hold. I'm just double checking.
Okay.
Yes, it's a hold. You're holding.
Okay. I shall hold.
Hold it, you son of a bitch. You had this at 43 last time, so that's one up. That's shockingly close, actually.
That's interesting, because I purposely didn't look at the old list because I didn't want to be influenced by it. So it's very funny that when something lands very close.
Yeah, that's funny. Anyway, my number 42 though is Nope.
Okay.
All right.
Oh yeah, no, you may continue.
Okay. Because you just had Get Out there, and you've had us already. I had Get Out earlier, so that did make my list. But Nope's actually my favorite of Jordan Peele's movies. It's very much him doing his version of Jaws, but with some kind of alien / UFO, and it's a lot of fun. I think his direction is the best it's ever been in this. I think the way he shoots some of these sequences, the visuals are just stunning at times. It's got a really good central story about this brother and sister and what makes them tick, and like their awkward relationship and how that's driving things and whatnot. But I like it because it's like, okay, we have this thing that's very scary, that can do really bad things and has done very bad things to people, but we have characters who are proactive and try to discern how it works, what the rules are, how can we fight this thing, can we fight this thing, and what's the plan to do it. And they come up with a plan and they try and enact it. And I love proactive characters in horror movies where they're fighting either a supernatural force because there's enough rules that they can plausibly actually fight it if they can think of some weaknesses, or a monster of some kind in this case. It's going to get a lot of overlap. Is it a monster? Is it a UFO? Is it an alien? Like there's a lot of crossover here in what you might call it, but it's very good. And the idea that it's kind of invisible in the sky as well, so it's kind of like the sky is the ocean. Again, the comparison to Jaws. But yeah, I loved it. Nope is very good.
Yeah, I mean, I really love this movie as well, and I don't know, I I kind of went back and forth to put it on the list, and I don't know. I think maybe.
Well, you decided nope.
Nope. I don't know if it's because I already had his other movies on there, and I wanted to make room for some other people, or if it's because maybe I quite enjoyed it, but it is still new. I haven't might need another watch or two to decide.
Yeah, like talk to me.
To put it right. But I don't know. I do enjoy this quite a bit. It's just it didn't quite make the list, but I really like it.
That's fine. I don't think you have to defend why you didn't put it on, Tim. It's okay. Right? It didn't make the cut, and that's okay. All right, that was number 42 for me, which means we're on to your 41, which is your last number of the episode, because we were already way over 2 hours. So I'm dreading this 40 movie last part of this, Tim, given these first 2 parts, but it's the bed we have made. What was your number 41?
So that is Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
You did have this last time. I noticed it earlier. You had this at 65 last time, so this has actually went up a good 25 spots.
Yeah, this is one that I liked when it came out. Like I saw it as a kid, I remember enjoying it quite a bit, and then I feel like maybe last couple of years or something, I kind of rediscovered it, and I just think it is so much fun. It's I mean, obviously I love the Crypt Keeper. When we went ahead and reviewed every episode of the show, and then a lot of them did not age very well, but the Crypt Keeper was always like fun to see. So I love having him in kind of like the opening and ending of the movie, and then the movie itself I just think is such a blast. It has possibly the best cast of any movie ever. That's
a bold claim, but okay.
I mean, you got Billy Zane, William Sadler,
Jada Pinkett Smith,
of course, Thomas Hayden Church, CC Pounder, Charles Fleischer. I mean, this cast is stacked. It's so damn good, and all very memorable characters. And then Billy Zane is playing such a hammy, over the top villain, but he's so much fun to watch. And then it almost reminds me of like kind of Evil Deadish and like the the types of humor and stuff there. And it is kind of like a siege movie, which is always fun. You have characters trapped in a house, and then it's a matter of, okay, how are the demons going to get in? How can they manipulate people and letting them in? This is I think a really a blast. And I don't know if it's like super obscure, but like I think maybe people that are a little older might not really remember it from being around that time or whatever, but I think if you haven't seen it, it is very much worth tracking down. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this when we done it for the show, and I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know what I was expecting from it, but it is a fun movie. Didn't make my list, but I thought it was good fun. Like, there was a lot of memorable moments, memorable characters, like you said. I had a good time.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Oh, and this is another Dick Miller, I believe, was in this as well.
Oh,
yeah,
three dicks. So that's a definite two-hand of that. All right, my number 41 to round out the episode is an unhold, in fact, and this is down slightly from 31 to 41, but this is You're Next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny. That's a good one to end on, because that was like at the very start of the episode.
yeah, book ending is almost like it was planned. Yeah, no, I like You're Next is like such a good example. It's maybe the main example I think of when I think of a movie that I went into in the theater to pass time, but I thought the trailer was shit, so I was going in such a jaded, no expectations. Well, that's a lie. It wasn't it was bad expectations. I was expecting bad, and the movie, which is, it's a Thanksgiving set movie. It's this woman named Erin and her boyfriend going to his family's for Thanksgiving, and then whilst they're at Thanksgiving dinner, a group of masked people do a siege on the house and start killing people from the outside, and it's all done really well. There's a really memorable moment where someone tries to get outside the front door. I won't spoil it, but it'll stick in your head forever. I promise that. But the big thing here that I was not expecting from this movie is that the main character, Erin, turns out to be one of the most badass final girls I've ever seen in a movie, because she grew up, she was raised by John Rambo or something. She starts making traps, she starts fighting the bad guys and like killing people in really over the top ways. There's fun practical gore effects. Like, you are rooting for this woman by the end of this movie. Like, she grabs you and she demands your like respect, and she like ensures that she drags you into this movie kicking and screaming. And it's a movie, it's not even like it's ultra super serious either. There's definitely some fun sillier moments, and there's I remember feeling really awkward in the cinema because there's a moment where a killer's chasing someone, and I thought they were going to like swing an axe or something, but instead they just punched her in the face, and I was just not expecting it. That I let out a laugh, and I thought, oh, people are going to think I'm like a deranged Phil for laughing about a woman getting punched in the face. But it was so unexpected that I just couldn't help but cackle at it. This was such a like out of nowhere surprise victory for me. I was expecting nothing, and I came out being like, okay, that's like one of my favorite movies of this decade, like instantly.
I feel like it was like a little ahead of its time too, because it feels like it's doing stuff that we see a lot of now, where it's like like, you know, the badass final girl, and like the you know, the over the top like rich asshole family, you know, that I feel like, you know, there's so many movies now about like, you know, shitty rich people like getting their comeuppance, but like I feel like this was kind of maybe a little less heard of at the time, but yeah, it's really well done. And so what's kind of funny is I realized on the last episode when I was looking at my list that I had accidentally put one movie on it twice.
Oh yeah.
So I deleted that the second time, and then I knew I had to, you know, come up with something to fill that spot. And then this movie popped into my head, and I hadn't seen it in a while, so I actually popped it on and rewatched it today, and it still really holds up. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, there is such a, maybe it's I mean, I guess it's not really a spoiler because we already mentioned that the Erin is like a super badass, but it is so funny, like when, you know, she's just talking to like someone in, you know, in the middle of everything, and she just like kind of casually mentions like, oh yeah, well, like my parents were like kind of crazy survivalists, and I grew up on a compound, and it's just like such a funny like casual way to be like, oh yeah, you guys are screwed because I am like the biggest badass there is, and you know, I'm like coming for everyone. But
it's like she's so proactive. Like I was saying earlier, that I love characters who are proactive in horror movies. And there's like as soon as stuff starts going down, she starts checking the phone line to see if they can call for help. So she's instantly looking for practical solutions and trying to problem solve, and it's just so easy to root for her because of that. Yeah, best Thanksgiving horror movie. No question.
Oh, hands down.
It's not even a fight.
Yeah. The kills in this are so good. And it's also like it's not like the movie itself is meta, but like there's like a weird like, oh, they have like, you know, appearances from like other horror directors, and like, you know, there's a lot of like horror mainstays like Barbara Crampton and stuff, and Larry Fessenden is in there. So there's like Ty Westlake plays a character for some reason, not sure why, but you know, that's just like another like fun little horror nod for it. But yeah, this is another one where kind of Adam Wingard has had like a pretty interesting career, because like between this and The Guest, like it was like, holy shit, like this is gonna be the guy.
Yeah, and then he's had a couple of weirder picks since then, hasn't he? Blair Witch was just okay.
Yeah.
I never saw his Death Note movie, but people didn't seem very positive about it.
You know what? I very rarely do this, but I think I was watching it with my wife, and we stopped it halfway through, and I was like, this sucks. Like we can't finish it. It was really bad. The demon guy looked cool, and he was played by was it Willem Dafoe, who did a really good job, but like it was a hard watch.
yeah, wild stuff. And didn't he do one of the Godzilla movies recently?
Was it the second one he did?
No, I think it was Godzilla vs Kong. I could be wrong. Let me just double check.
Was it him? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the second one was the guy who did Krampus. It was Michael Dougherty.
Oh, Dougherty?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was mixing them up then. Yeah, then he must have done versus Kong then.
Yeah. Which I actually did enjoy. Like, it's fun. It didn't work for me. It's not what I wish he was making after You're Next, admittedly.
Right.
But
yeah.
I enjoy kaiju movies. Even King of the Monsters. The humans are shit, but I do really enjoy that for the fun that it is. And I enjoyed Godzilla vs Kong again, just for what it is. That said, though, and obviously he's working on the second one, I think. But I do hope that he goes back to doing something like Your Next, because it's his best movie. Like I just
absolutely
nothing else has touched it. So, very good.
Yeah, and I'd like to see him. Do like, I don't know. Maybe he just works a little better with like original ideas. Maybe even stuff with like kind of smaller budgets or something. Because those really shine versus some of the bigger IP and projects have not really been like what you kind of want from him.
I mean, maybe he'll get to do something really wild with Godzilla and Kong, which I think is what the next one's called. Well, it's Godzilla and Kong : something. I don't remember what the rest of the title is, but I'm sure it'll be silly, whatever it is.
And then we got the Godzilla shows coming out soon, right? Isn't that this week?
Yeah, no, it's not this week.
I thought it was the 17th. There.
Godzilla show that, like, you mean the Monarch one?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not until next year.
Oh, okay.
You've got me down myself now, though. What?
Do you want to put some money on this?
Hold on a second. I'm
okay.
live fact checking. Monarch Legacy of Monsters is the title. Where are we? Come on now. Where's Wikipedia? Thank you. It doesn't seem to. November 17th. Okay, this is a recent development. That's when did this happen? This was just vaguely next year for a long time.
Do we need to move some stuff around? Are you going to review it?
I am going to review it. It turns out.
There goes your weekend plans.
I've got a second Murder at the End of the World to do this week as well. Oh, well. Okay. Well, I'll just have to happen then, won't it?
I mean, I'm interested in seeing how that goes, though.
I'm curious. You got Kurt and Wyatt Russell in it, so we'll see how that is. Anyway, this has been our top 100 horror movies, and that was my number 41, which rounds out part 2, which means the final part will be our top 40s, and we'll see how that goes. This was longer than the first part, which I have to blame Tim, because I was like, he was telling me to hold like constantly, so this was all on Tim for the length of this one. Yeah, this is all on you. But you can let us know what you think of our picks. Tell us which ones are good recommendations that sound interesting to you, and of course you can support all the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses for your trouble. We do a bonus episode every month where we'll do like a B movie or something to review, and then starting back in December, we'll have our monthly Even More Stream show where we just talk about all the random horror movies we've been watching, not for the show, as well as a bit of a quiz. I don't know if Tim's bringing the quiz back or if we'll maybe do another feature instead, but there'll be a bit of discussion.
Yeah, we'll do something.
We'll do something. We've been doing on Meltdowns where we're doing Mount Rushmores of like various sci-fi things. Maybe we'll do that.
That's interesting.
As a horror concept. But check out Patreon, and of course if you can't support us over there, don't feel bad, just hit the like button on YouTube. Helps more people find us, so all it takes is a little button click and that'll do the job. But that is the show, so thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you, should be next week, for part 3 and the final part of our top 100, however epic that ends up being. And we'll see you then. But thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.